Chapter 883. The product of the black water that covered Han Dong's team's large-scale migration was not a monster like the one in the movie Alien. It was a humanoid with a long and flat head, and its body was covered in a shell similar to that of an alien. In the experimental text, such creatures were described as incomplete metamorphosis or low metamorphosis. They were all classified as failures and were only used as guards for the Round Valley Bun. However, even though these creatures were not worth cultivating, they had short lifespans and low intelligence. Their physical fitness was still very strong. Among them, more than a dozen of the elite creatures were the ones that ambushed Mia at the beginning of the mission. That was also the reason for the mass migration. Even if they passed by other cultivation areas on the way, they would politely make way for them. After all, thousands of black water products were considered a relatively strong army in the outer area. None of the locals noticed Han Dong, and his team were among them. It took them 2 days and 2 nights with almost no rest. Relying on the support of travel mode, they crossed a snake-shaped valley with flowing green water and finally arrived at the largest desert in Fairy's capital, the Grayfield. Unlike the yellow desert in his memory, this desert was made up of gray sand grains. These gray sand grains might not be silicon crystals, but another kind of material. The Grayfield Desert was located at the lowest point of the planet. It was similar to a basin structure. This kind of exaggerated geographical structure is really not seen on Earth. The Grayfield Desert and the valley where Han Dong was now were about 1,000 meters above sea level. In other words, the edge of the Grayfield Desert was surrounded by thousands of meters high cliffs. The naturally formed high wall isolated the desert like a naturally formed forbidden zone. Han Dong and his team stood at the edge of the cliff and looked at the endless gray desert. An inexplicable sense of danger swept over them. Han Dong's intuition told him that once they entered the desert area, they would be further restricted by the system, such as no flying. Moreover, the black water products that protected them did not dare to come close to the desert at all. They did not even dare to come close to the cliff. They kept a distance of more than 100 meters from the edge of the desert. Due to their low intelligence and lack of a language system, their consciousness was also a mess. It was impossible to know what they were afraid of. Perhaps it was just an instinctive fear. It's an hour earlier than expected. Let's take a break. Under Han Dong's suggestion, the team found a secluded cave at the edge of the valley to rest for the night before continuing their journey. As for the products of the black water that had escorted everyone here, Han Dong had given them the right to freedom and left them to fend for themselves. Cave room. In order for everyone to have good rest, Demps used the sixth finger's precise control of magic to construct a high-density waterbed that was tough and could fit perfectly to the body. It was definitely more comfortable than any soft bed in the Holy City. Take advantage of this opportunity. Mia immediately hugged Han Dong and dragged him to one of the waterbeds. Are you planning to mate? As soon as he said this, Han Dong, who was drinking water, immediately spat it out. When Mia heard this, she was also shocked. She had been cheated too many times. It was already a luxury to have the opportunity to lie down and sleep with Han Dong. She did not even think about it. Besides, there were so many people in the cave. Although Abel and Demps seemed to be having an affair with Han Dong in Mia's eyes, it was impossible for them to engage in group sports here. The person who said this sentence was Lore Meritus. In her worldview, mating was a very normal thing. The most common thing in the streets and alleys of Toad City was mating. Of course, Meritus was not a casual person. As an atavistic body, she had to be at least a male who was also an atavistic body to be qualified to mate with her. Meritus continued to say with a serious face, I also suggest you not to mate at this time. It will consume too much physical strength. Rest is the priority. Han Dong was just about to explain something. Meritus had sunk her body into the pool formed by her own territory and completely fell asleep. She did not give Han Dong a chance to explain at all. Han Dong did not care if she did not explain. Let's sleep. There are unknown dangers in the Maverick Desert. It is not easy to find Shandu. It took us 2 days to reach the edge of the Maverick Desert and sleep for a night. The other teams should be at the same speed as us. There's a certain probability that we will encounter other teams before reaching Shundu with a label of hybrid demons. A fight to the death is inevitable. Han Dong did not reject Mia. Since she wanted to sleep, he would let her sleep. The secret cave had been sealed by Meritus with the stone of eczema. It was absolutely safe during sleep. About an hour later, everyone fell asleep one after another. The mark of the deep sea hidden on the back of Han Dong's left hand lit up slightly. At this moment, Han Dong woke up in a special dream. It was still the cave where everyone temporarily rested, but his companions were not here. Because of the activation of the mark of the deep sea, Han Dong also realized that he was currently in a dream. Is there a creature that is investigating this area through the dream? Under normal circumstances, the mark of the deep sea will not be activated. Currently, I am in a real dream, and all abilities can be used normally. Han Dong slowly walked out of the cave. In front of the cliff, he found a monk. The simple gray robe and the 12 scars on the head were exactly the image of a monk from his homeland in Han Dong's impression. This is the first time I met a member of another team with a real dream. It's very strange. Although you are branded as a hybrid demon in the Destiny space, and the aura you release is biased towards the hybrid demons. But from what I see with my mind's eye, you look like a human. A Western knight captured by the hybrid demons? Han Dong said in fluent Mandarin, I only came here because of an accident through the gate of destiny transformed by the hybrid demons. Are you a warrior of Dragon City? I'm a little monk, Gu Su. Han Dong quickly mentioned a person. I have dealt with Hoi Zipping in the Destiny space. If I have the chance in the future, I will definitely visit Dragon City. True or false? False or true? It's up to this little monk to judge whether it's true or false. A sense of danger that reached the bottom of Han Dong's heart was transmitted to his brain. The void tentacles that had been ready for a long time immediately wrapped around the stone 10 meters behind him. Void transfer. When the transfer was completed, the place where Han Dong originally stood was imprinted with a giant palm print of a full meter deep. A drop of cold sweat flowed down Han Dong's cheek. The monk who called himself Gu Su was still sitting on the edge of the cliff, without any movement. The hybrid demon body has a human heart. Interesting. Chapter 884. Han Dong was not a person who liked to reason. He had planned to use his experience of working with Hua Zipping to establish a relationship to reduce the other party's hostility. But the other party did not say a word and directly attacked. Han Dong was too lazy to talk nonsense. Sand of death. A large amount of black sand separated from the surrounding ground and turned into the head of High Priest Imhotep, which swallowed the monk on the cliff. After the experience in the Holy City prison, the quality of his left arm had improved. This death magic could reach the level of a 3rd or 4th grade knight. Coupled with the essence of mythical level contact, it could easily defeat or even kill a knight of the same grade. Mythical level contact? The monk's eyelids twitched slightly as he sensed a trace of danger. His body, which was originally sitting in front of the cliff facing the desert, immediately turned and looked directly at the black sand head that was about to swallow him. In an instant, he seemed to have seen through the basic structure of this spell. His hands formed a seal unique to Buddhism. Akalanatha, an illusory image of an angry Buddha, appeared in the air and then disappeared into the young monk's body. No matter how the sand of death hit the surface of the monk's body, he was not affected at all. Even the monk's robe showed no signs of breaking. Perhaps the monk's robe itself was a high-level destiny equipment. Just as the black sand was about to finish devouring, and there was only the last layer of sand left. A mad dog with blood dripping from its mouth tore open the last layer of black sand and bit at the monk's body. The mad dog's bloody mouth was woven with bright red tentacles. In the depths of its mouth, there was a human head wearing a cone-shaped eye shield that stared at the monk. The young monk stared at the hybrid demon in the dog's mouth and was shocked. Huh? You really are a knight of the Holy City, and you deliberately kept the consciousness of the hybrid demon in your body during the sea-breaking period to maximize the power of the hybrid demon. No wonder Hua Zipping was defeated by you. Invincible Vajra. the symbol of swastika formed on the back of his hand. A layer of Buddhist light, like holy light, that could restrain hybrid demons covered Gusu's body, especially his two arms. He grabbed the upper and lower jaws of the dog and blocked the attack head-on. Even, crack, the strength of Vajra was added to his arms, and his strength surpassed Blood Dog's bite force. Crack, crack, crack. The top and bottom of the bloodhound's mouth were broken, and blood splattered everywhere. Even Count, who was deep inside the bloodhound's mouth, was startled. Of course, Han Dong was equally shocked. Although this move didn't have underworld blood attached to it, when used together with the black sand magic, it was more than enough to deal with a knight of the third or fourth step. Right now, he was actually being suppressed by this monk. Powerful indeed. Moreover, there are several powerful auras emanating from the cave you're sleeping in. I hope we don't meet in advance. The young monk who had destroyed Black Sand and Blood Dog from the front did not intend to continue attacking. His figure gradually faded as he left the dreamland. Han Dong was left standing on the spot, deep in thought. The strength displayed by the monk forced Han Dong to carefully consider the element of team competition. Its strength had already exceeded Han Dong's expectations. This Easterner is so strong. He can actually ignore your black sand and can also directly confront this Count's Blood Dog. Count's consciousness was attached to Han Dong, so naturally they were together in the dream. Right now, he was covering his upper and lower mouth, showing an expression of toothache. It's not just the technique and strength. This monk's eyes are not worse than mine. It seems that he directly confronted Black Sand and Blood Dog, but in fact, he found the weakness of both of them. The sand belongs to the rare type of magic. It seems scattered, but in fact, there is a central point that maintains the whole magic. The aura emitted by this monk just hit the magic center of Black Sand, causing the sand to collapse before it came into contact with his body, and the effect was greatly reduced. As for your Blood Dog, it's the same. The Buddha's light emitted from his body is similar to the powerful holy light of the combat nuns. It has a strong restraining effect on the power of the hybrid demon. When the Blood Dog was biting, it just happened to be broken by him. All of this points to one thing. This monk's eyes are extremely powerful. He saw through my double combo in advance. The next time we meet, it will be a big battle. Han Dong didn't think much and continued to sleep in the dream, entering a state of deep sleep. He slept directly for a total of 12 hours. When Han Dong woke up, he found that Mia, who took off her spacesuit, was only wearing a low neckline bra. She hugged him tightly. Her mouth was still muttering Han Dong's English name. However, Han Dong also felt the gaze of a third person at the same time. Lord Meritus was standing next to the waterbed at the moment. Her curly hair was hanging down, and her round eyes were wide open, carefully observing Han Dong, who had just woken up. "Miss Mary, what are you doing? I want to see how you humans mate. I'm curious. Didn't I tell you we didn't? It's just pure sleep." Strange. I clearly smell a lot of hormones from this female individual. If it was in Toad City, when one party releases a lot of hormones and the two are in close contact, they would have already begun to lay eggs. You humans are really strange individuals. Han Dong didn't know what to say. After all, it was a different species. Meritus turned around and looked around the cave. "By the way, did someone come here yesterday or explore the cave in some way?" "Huh, Miss Mary, you can feel it? The Stone of Condaloma is an epic level treasure given to me by the Bufo, but its position has been shifted to a certain extent last night. Yes, yesterday I used the deep sea mark to see a participant in the dream world." "Dream world? No wonder it can be infiltrated. Did the other party find us here?" "Yes, but according to the other party, they will not take the initiative to find us. You can rest assured about this. It's better to let them find us. We can make some dried meat as food. Our primary goal is to find Shindu." The team reorganized a little and came to the edge of the cliff again, staring at the corresponding gray-field desert of more than 1,000 meters below. Han Dong signaled his teammates to step back. "Let me go down and explore first. Whether it's the sand magic that I'm proficient in, or the multiple life-saving abilities that I have, I'm the most suitable person to explore the unknown forbidden area. By the way, Miss Mary, next, we will walk through the dry desert area. This thing should be useful to you. Han Dong took out the water-repellent pearl that he had bought in advance in the world of Black Tower. Although it was just a small toy, it could play a miraculous role in special circumstances. Meritus, who took the water-repellent pearl with a cautious look, instantly felt a large amount of water entering her body, and at the same time, it locked the water in her body, reducing the speed of body water loss by 70%. Before Mary could say anything, Han Dong had jumped off the cliff. Chapter 885. Grayfield is an important area for the current Fate event. Flying is prohibited in this area. Sure enough, with the ability to fly completely sealed off, at a height of more than 1,000 meters, Han Dong naturally could not land vertically. Relying on the control of the black sand with his left arm, a layer of black sand helped him land easily every 10 meters. Just before landing, there was a layer of black sand at the landing site in advance to avoid direct contact with Han Dong. It was better to be cautious when uncertain about the structure of the gray sand. The close observation of the Grayfield Desert was more clear than standing 1,000 meters above the ground. Preliminary examination. The gray sand was indeed a type of sand, but these grains of sand seemed to contain other substances, and Han Dong guessed that it was related to the black water. Moreover, Han Dong always felt that these grains of sand were not dead, and each of them was carrying out subtle activities. When Han Dong tried to control the gray sand, there was no response. Han Dong's control of sand magic was not low at all, and the owner of this arm was the original high priest of ancient Egypt, Imhotep. Uncontrollable means that all the sand in this desert belongs to someone, and a powerful existence manages the desert. And when Han Dong slowly reached out and touched the gray sand on the ground, the seemingly dead sand immediately stuck to Han Dong's finger and instantly sank under the skin. The aberration had already occurred. Several tentacles similar to a facehugger grew from the edge of the finger, and the tip of the finger suddenly became a mouth with sharp teeth. Han Dong had completely lost control of the finger. The mouth on the finger seemed to be very interested in Han Dong's head and crazily moved up. Crack, 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 the bones were broken, and the skin was about to be torn. The entire aberrated finger was about to be separated from Han Dong and become an independent entity. The invasiveness of these grains of sand is much stronger than the inferior black water in the peripheral area. Han Dong immediately controlled the sacred blood flowing in his right arm and gathered it in the finger area. The sword-like sacred blood cells quickly killed all the mutation factors in the finger and regained control of the finger. The dim sand was constantly coughed out from the tip of the finger. The finger, similar to a facehugger, gradually returned to its original shape, leaving only some traces similar to tentacles and mouths on the surface of the skin. Han Dong tried to wrap cloth, metal, and spacesuit on the tip of the finger and touch it with the sand. He found that the metal could effectively isolate the sand. This Grayfield Desert is related to the origin of the black water. As far as I am concerned, I have to activate the sacred blood to barely resist the aberration. The main plot has not even started, and it is already so troublesome. However, the metal isolation is also good news. As long as the power armor covered their entire body, they could move in the desert. If this desert is under the control of a certain existence, then our arrival should have been seen by it as well. Han Dong's message was sent back. The team members slowly descended from the 1,000-meter-high cliff one after another and put on their armor in advance. Even so, when their feet landed on the gray sand, they could clearly feel the gray sand under their feet squirming slightly. But because of the isolation of the metal, it could not enter the soles of their feet. Miss Mary, this inferior method of invasion is useless against me. Adaptive Field Meritus had an atavistic body, and her field had evolved into a passive skill that did not require energy support. There was always a pool of water covering her lower body, and because of this, it prevented her body from directly coming into contact with the desert. Of course, this ability was also limited, which required the humidity of the environment to exceed a certain limit. Arid areas would lead to continuous loss of water, and eventually the field would dissipate. But fortunately, Han Dong prepared the water avoidance bead in advance. The large amount of water in the bead could last for at least a week. As long as there was no fierce battle, this amount of water was enough to support her to reach Shun. Mary's curly hair covered her face, and her words were full of disdain for the group of humans. But she was a little touched in her heart. She did not understand how such a water attribute bead came about. Han Dong did not have the water attribute. So why did he carry such a treasure? Did he prepare it in advance for her? The more she thought about it, the more strange it became. From time to time, she would secretly glance at the young man who was both a human and an alien demon messenger, imagining last night's seemingly copulatory behavior. Miss Mary Dis, who often watched others copulate but had never tasted the forbidden fruit herself, had a little bit of desire to copulate. For the time being, she put Han Dong on her list of mating partners, and he was the only one on the list. Before leaving, Mary asked again, "How do we find Shendu?" Han Dong showed an expression of reassuring everyone. "I found a way. I suspect that this desert has its own life. Every grain of sand has vitality. Or rather, some high-level existence was controlling the entire desert. We just need to go in the direction with more vitality, and we will definitely find the entrance to Shundu, a living desert." Mary looked from afar with the toad's eye, and indeed felt that the desert was like a gray worm, which seemed to be in a state of hibernation. Han Dong was completely enlightened. Under the vision of the magic eye, he could see the rich gradient of vitality in the desert. Everyone followed Han Dong's exploration and moved quickly in travel mode. There was no oasis in the Grayfield Desert. Occasionally, they could see some severely weathered ancient buildings, which are not the style of ancient Egypt, but a kind of alien building with a strong biological color. Such buildings could be seen about every 1,000 meters. Whenever sandstorms came, they could take refuge in such an unusually strong alien building. On the second day of their journey, Han Dong even found an abandoned city about the size of an ordinary town on Earth. Just as they sensed a strong storm with rich vitality coming, the team of 5 went to the most solid building in the town, which was similar to a church. The interior of the building was well preserved, and it avoided the engravings and pictures left by the alien life. At the same time, Han Dong also saw a similar mural, a life form similar to the alien in the image of Jesus suffering, which was engraved in the center of the wall. At this time, Demps put a finger on Han Dong's back and looked at the mural in the building together. "Nicholas, you really know how to choose. This destiny event is very suitable for you." "What do you mean?" "Every true destiny has a unique characteristic. From what we have seen so far, in this medium to large destiny world, the characteristics are life, mutation, and desert. These 3 characteristics are closely related to you. You could try to carry out the corresponding identity test in Prometheus, or the highest level of identity test, which will be beneficial to the survival of all of us and maximize the benefits. Of course, the difficulty will be high. After all, we are labeled as hybrid demons this time." Identity test? This was the first time Han Dong heard of such a term. Demps simply explained. Just like Commander Malone in the large destiny world Hell, he passed the extremely difficult Demon King trial and became the first outsider in history to wear the crown of Hell's Demon King. In every world of true destiny, there is a corresponding identity test. It can let you obtain an identity and privilege in the current world, and even let you maintain a connection with this world in the future. Hell's Knights came about this way. Using Commander Malone's privilege, he can directly send the members to Limbo, Hell's border, to undergo a special Hell training and obtain the power of the demon. If you, Nicholas, can obtain a similar identity, in the future when your strength is strong enough, using the world connection and the dominant destiny identity, you may be able to apply to the Parliament for the 14th Night Regiment. Haha, that's too far away, but if that day really comes, Demps, you could be my vice commander. I can consider it. While Han Dong laughed awkwardly, He also thought that what Dimps said was very interesting. The so-called identity test also existed in Reed Town, where Han Dong first encountered. Participants could also pass the test from the mayor, become a resident of Reed Town, or even become one of the 10 demons and establish a connection with Reed Town. However, Han Dong was already a major shareholder of Reed Town, and his identity was almost equivalent to a clerk. Staring at the wall, the image of the crucifixion of Jesus with the alien as the main body and the gray sandstorm outside the building. While Han Dong was deep in thought, the corner of his mouth slightly raised. Chapter 886. Nicholas, you should be aware of this in advance. The identity test, set up in different Destiny worlds. Sometimes it runs through the whole story. Sometimes it is hidden in every corner of the Destiny world, but most of it is hidden in the core area. Wait until we enter the Shundu. We should be able to find some clues. As long as there's a chance, I will support you. After saying this, Dimps slightly increased the strength of his finger massage. Ouch! Be gentle. If it is suitable, I will try to take the identity test. Indeed, the world of Prometheus is very suitable for me, and I feel that this kind of universe exploration type Destiny world is not only limited to one planet. I will not give up this kind of excellent opportunity. Anyway, looking at what we have seen and heard on this planet, Dimps, don't you feel strange? Tell me, see if we have the same idea. I have already told you the plot of the original movie. The main body that controls this planet should be a kind of alien life form called the White Giant. In Prometheus, this life form is set as the creator of mankind. A selected White Giant came to Earth as a sacrifice, using him as the template, and then using the black water to disintegrate and recombine the genes, thus creating mankind on Earth. This group of White Giant often went to Earth to monitor the development of mankind and brought a part of the ancient Egyptian elite to this planet to expand civilization. But in the few days we've been on the road, we have not seen a single White Giant, and we even found a large amount of alien ruins in the Greyfield Desert. These ruins should belong to the White Giant's former city. Is it possible that this alien race was attacked by mankind? The formation of this living desert, I am afraid it is related to this matter. Dimps, what do you think? Dimps also nodded. It is similar to what I thought. This planet is full of abnormal black water that is not suitable for living organisms, a large amount of alien ruins. It seems to be full of vitality, but in fact it is worse than a dead planet. When we reach the Shundu, naturally we will get more information. When the two of them were almost done talking, the third pair of eyes quietly peeked over and stared at Dimps, who was massaging Han Dong intimately. You humans can mate with the same sex? Perhaps because she had just added Han Dong to the list of candidates for mating, Meritus paid more attention to Han Dong. Han Dong finally couldn't hold it in anymore and began to explain, Ahem, why do you always like to link everything to mating? Miss Mary, according to our human values, mating is a very sacred thing. It's not something that can happen casually. Meritus said naturally, because your contact was very intimate and caused your blood pressure to rise and your mind to be in a more excited state. I thought you were mating. This is called massage. It's a type of auxiliary medical treatment that can adjust a person's physical condition. Oh, during the sandstorm, everyone could only rest in the building. This kind of strong sandstorm could roll up a large amount of gray sand and make each grain of sand move at a speed of 130 meters per second. Once caught in the sandstorm, a large amount of gray sand would hit the individual at high speed. Even if the entire body was wrapped in a power armor, it could not guarantee safety. The sandstorm lasted for a full 11 hours. The team also took a nap one after another. When the sandstorm basically disappeared, everyone was ready to continue exploring the Shundu. Han Dong suddenly reached out and stopped the team members. Wait, there seems to be other life in the city ruins. Han Dong's senses were correct. In the ruins of this alien city, there were other life forms. The reason why they didn't sense it at the beginning was that this group of life forms came to the ruins almost at the same time before the sandstorm. They hid in the buildings at the edge. Phew! This kind of sandstorm dominated by life energy is really scary. My body can't withstand this kind of genetic mutation. The first to walk out of the building was a hunchbacked, bald man. He used his respiratory system to check the outside air quality. After confirming that there was no problem, he let his teammates come out. Tesla, the situation outside is still good. This kind of living desert is still very holistic. Once the sandstorm ends, the grains of sand will return to the desert and will not float in the air alone. But my lungs seem to have inhaled the smell of hybrid demons. Following the bald professor's speech, from another dilapidated building, four members walked out one after another. The leader of the group was a handsome young man in his mid-30s. His body was wrapped in an insulating robe, and he had a head full of blonde hair. However, compared to the other participants of Fate, this blonde young man was on the skinnier side. He looked as frail as a telephone pole. Professor Novikov, do you mean that there is a group of hybrid demons taking refuge here? The bald professor stretched out his hand and pointed at the center of the ruins, which was the domed chapel where Han Dong's team was hiding. That's right. My lungs will not go wrong. Tesla, we are quite lucky. If we can eliminate the hybrid demons before the main storyline begins, we can avoid a lot of trouble in the future. Do you want to go, or should I? I'll do it. Professor Novikov, you will seal off the ruins from the outside to prevent the hybrid demons from escaping. Well, if we encounter more troublesome hybrid demons, I'll come and help. We can't let anything happen to the future chairman of Tesla. It was not one team that gathered here, but two teams of engineers from Megalanri in the Holy City. Those who successfully broke the hybrid demons were called knights. The corresponding people in Dragon City were called warriors, while the corresponding people in Wangdu were called engineers. 1. Led by Tesla, Grade 4 engineer, eldest son of the chairman of Tesla Energy Company, a four-man team. Particle radiation, P.R. Tesla Energy Company's position in Wangdu was the same as the Knight's position in the Holy City. 2. Led by Professor Novikov, Grade 5 engineer, belonging to Mendel Biotechnology Company, working in the Respiratory Transformation Department, a four-man team. Alleles. As mentioned in the previous article, Professor Novikov's three teammates were each more than 3 meters tall and had huge physiques. Their bodies were shrouded in a colloidal robe, which gave others a great sense of oppression. Just as Novikov and his teammates went to the four corners of the ruins to seal off the area, Tesla stepped forward and came to a position 50 meters away from the central chapel, but his teammates were not in a hurry to follow. Alternating current was flowing in Tesla's palm. He raised his arm and pressed down with his palm. In the absence of thunderclouds or other anomalies, dozens of twisted lightning bolts fell on the chapel. Even the biological building built by the White Giant was completely destroyed under the bombardment of violent lightning. Chapter 887. The scene changed. Chapel building. Team. Raven language, Toad. This kind of sandstorm, which contained powerful life energy, could completely isolate all senses. When the sandstorm completely subsided, the magic crows hidden in different buildings in the ruins in advance immediately sent back the perception information to Han Dong. In the ordinary buildings on the edge of the ruins, there was a signal of a living person. Sure enough, we met other participant teams in advance. Something's not right. Han Dong's expression darkened as he slowly summarized the signals from the crows. What's wrong? It doesn't seem to be one team, but two allied teams hiding from the sandstorm in the ruins. The two leaders are both Caucasians, but they shouldn't be from the Holy City. I've never seen them before, and their clothes don't match their status as knights. When he heard this, Abel's fluffy ears flickered slightly, showing an uneasy expression, and whispered, "Engineers from Megalanri? I heard from my grandfather that our holy city has a good relationship with Dragon City, but our relationship with Wangdu in the American continent is not good. The people who lived there were a bunch of arrogant sand people. They even proposed a human migration plan to the holy city and Dragon City at the same time. They asked us to abandon our respective main cities, go to America, and integrate into their Wangdu. Unlike our knights and the warriors of Dragon City, the Destiny ability users in Megalanry call themselves engineers. Han Dong asked curiously, if we really want to migrate, can the population problem be solved? The current population of the Holy City is basically saturated, right? They claim that as long as we are willing to carry out the migration plan, we will be able to expand the space for us to live in. In this way, we can gather all the power of mankind and take back the world that belongs to us in advance. But the Holy City naturally rejected this plan immediately. In addition, the tech tree developed by Wangdu seems to be different from ours. They have completely abandoned STEAM science and entered the electrical age. Especially in the field of science, they quite despise the STEAM science we use. Han Dong laughed at himself. From the looks of it, Wangdu Megalanray, which was far away in the American continent, followed the technology tree of Han Dong's previous world. Moreover, it was very likely that this group of Americans had already entered the electronic information age. But in Han Dong's eyes, it was nothing. What really shocked Han Dong was the second hidden city built by the Holy City, the City of Steam. It was a line of scientific development that Han Dong had never seen before. On the basis of STEAM science, it would continue to derive and develop. The computer technology, multiple precision difference engines, artificial intelligence, anti-gravity technology, and steam energy that was as efficient as nuclear energy were all incredible scientific products in Han Dong's eyes. Mr. Newton's scientific level was definitely not lower than the world's top scientists in his previous life. Based on Han Dong's philosophy as a professor, there was no difference between the different paths of scientific development under the different technology trees. The ocean of knowledge was endless, and the field of knowledge controlled by humans was just a small island in the ocean. The extension and development of different technology trees was like the people on the island building their own ships and exploring the endless sea from different directions. If there was a chain of contempt, Han Dong only thought that the person standing at the other end of the chain of contempt was a pure idiot. With the help of the hidden crows, Han Dong observed the size of the two teams. The composition of one of the teams is relatively normal, and the four people look relatively ordinary human. As for the other team, it's a bit weird. The leader is a bald white man with a slightly hunched back, exuding a more terrifying aura. The body of his team members is 2 to 3 times the size of a normal person, and their bodies are wrapped in a rubber coat that perception cannot penetrate. At present, the weird team led by the bald hunchback is dispersing to the periphery. It seems that they want to seal off the ruins. They don't intend to let us escape. Speaking of which, the humidity in the church increased. Lord Meridus's killing intent was soaring. Because the battle was suddenly stopped in the middle, she was forced to take this group of humans into the extremely dangerous Destiny realm. At this moment, the anger in her stomach was completely released. Let me kill them. It's just a group of inferior humans. The purpose of you following me into the Destiny realm is to lower the overall level. I can easily kill this group of humans. Just as she was preparing to fight alone, Han Dong suddenly tilted his head. His eyes looked straight. The completely open demonic eyes had several small gray tentacles drilling in and out of the eye sockets. The pattern eyes were also constantly rotating. Meridus saw Han Dong's true attitude from the demonic eyes, forcing her to calm down. Destiny World is not that simple. Otherwise, it would not attract the attention of all the old kings. If it is possible to let a strong person bring a few weak people, then they can be matched with mid-level opponents, and then through the strong person sweep everything, then this matching mechanism is really stupid. In the crow's eyes that I set up, the two teams from the American continent are definitely not weak, and it is basically impossible to see through them. Once we are pincered, we will be at a disadvantage. It is basically unrealistic to want to defeat the two teams head-on. Instead, it may end up with a complete annihilation, or even a situation where there are more than half of the casualties. This battle needs Miss Mary as the key to hide. The early battle will be left to me and my teammates. Since they choose to fight inside and outside separately, one team will seal the periphery, and only one team will find us. In the case of 4v4, we can face them head-on. When the opportunity appears, Miss Mary will break the balance. If we are lucky, we can seriously injure or even kill some people in advance. If we are unlucky, we will take the opportunity to escape and find Shindu as the primary goal. Staring at the image of Faceless in the demonic eyes, she held the water avoidance pearl given by Han Dong in her hand. Meritus's arrogance as the atavistic body was finally put down. Humph, I will reluctantly listen to your arrangement. If you can't defeat the opponent, or if I see a better opportunity to kill the enemy, I will come out myself. Okay. At this time, Han Dong, who was originally planning to formulate a battle plan, suddenly stared with surprise. A blond boy, who was still hundreds of meters away, in the blink of an eye, turned into lightning and flashed to the front of the chapel. There was no time to communicate or prepare at all. Some kind of extremely violent magic power was gathering in the sky. Even Meritus, who was the atavistic body, felt a trace of danger. It indirectly proved that Han Dong's statement was correct. The matching system of the destiny space was absolutely perfect. This group of people had the strength to resist the atavistic body. Meritus immediately sank into the pool domain and took the initiative to hide. Demps! As Han Dong shouted, a voice rang out. Demps had opened the magic book at his waist, and with the magic drawn on it, he activated the defensive array. At the same time, Han Dong also propped up his left arm and built an absolute defense with the black sand. Boom! Lightning flashed. The enchantment built by Demps was directly torn open. The lightning surged and hit the surface of the black sand. The head-on collision between the magic directly caused Han Dong's mummy left arm to constantly smoke, and even some burnt skin tissue fell to the ground. When the black sand barrier was about to be broken, a broad body blocked in front of Han Dong, using the dragon scales to resist the lightning. Chapter 888. Lightning Strike. Tesla used himself as an alternating current generator to directly trigger the lightning phenomenon. The reason why his teammates did not follow him immediately was that they knew that Captain Tesla's ability was not only to kill the enemy, but also to injure his teammates. Tesla's equipment was also quite special. Other people's equipment was used to amplify abilities, but his equipment was used to restrict abilities. It was an insulating robe made with the most advanced technology of Tesla Energy Company using special Destiny materials, but its quality was epic and exclusive to Tesla. The main effect of this robe was to control, restrain, and adjust Tesla. In the past, Tesla could not control the electrical energy in his body and caused many large-scale accidents in Wangdu Megalanry. Of course, it was not only Tesla himself who was strong, but the members of the team he formed, Particle Radiation, PR, were also strong. All of them grew up with Tesla and reached the 4th level of engineers. 1. Decomposer, Walter Griff from Curie Chemical. A brown-haired young man wearing thin glasses was the youngest in the team. 2. Wave Dynamics, Richard Peeds from the Schrödinger Institute of Mechanics. Originally, he was supposed to be studying quantum mechanics, which caused him to go bald early. Now, he has a bald hairstyle. He has perfect muscles that can't be categorized as a scientist. 3. Regenerative Energy, Eva Garcia from Tesla Energy Company, the only female in the team and also Tesla's childhood sweetheart. She wore the special work uniform of Tesla and looked relatively weak with low combat strength. The bald Richard stared at the violent lightning falling in the distance and trembled. He could not help but recall the time when he was in the team with Tesla and was accidentally injured by lightning. Boss seems to be in a good state. He just triggered a lightning strike of this scale. If the hybrid demons hiding inside do not have special lightning resistance or defensive abilities, they will be seriously injured even if they don't die. Decomposer Walter used his finger to remove a speck of dust from the lens as he spoke softly. It's not that simple. With our current level, We should be matched with mature hybrid demons. Their abilities should be complete, and they should have sensed that we are hiding from the sandstorm. They must have made preparations in advance. However, Boss's condition was indeed very good. This kind of super fast lightning descent was impossible to completely block even if they had set up defenses in advance. After all, this lightning was summoned by Boss, and there was a big difference between it and ordinary lightning. This kind of attack should be able to stun the hybrid demons for a long time. Let's hurry up and help. Don't give them a chance to recover. Richard touched his bald head with a confident expression. Haha, why are you so nervous? Boss is in such good condition, and there's also that monster Novikov helping him. It's impossible for these hybrid demons to survive. I actually hope that we can slowly deal with them. If we just kill these hybrid demons, I feel like we're letting them off too easily. At this moment, Tesla, who was standing in the distance, waved to his teammates. There seemed to be a situation, and the three of them immediately rushed over as fast as they could. Boss, you're in such good condition. There should be a hybrid demon that died in the lightning descent, right? Tesla ignored Richard's question and asked his childhood sweetheart, Eva, can you detect the situation inside? Just as Eva spread out her field of perception, the stones in the ruins of the church moved. Lightning reaction. Tesla, be careful. A pure white lightning shot out from the wreckage of the building that was destroyed by the lightning descent. It was an intermediate-level lightning magic, lightning of day, that was composed of pure magic energy, a sophisticated magic circle, and a perfect chanting spell. Using the same lightning magic to counterattack was obviously a provocation to Tesla. The latter did not dodge, but straightened his arm and took the lightning head-on. When the white lightning came into contact with his palm, part of the lightning was immediately absorbed by Tesla. However, part of the energy that belonged to the demons could not be digested by Tesla's physique. It took a lot of effort to finally catch the white lightning. His palm was damaged to a certain extent, and bursts of burnt smell rose. Magic! Did the hybrid demon also learn magic from the Destiny space? Why doesn't it contain any pollution? Just when Tesla was surprised, for figures quickly jumped out and stood between the wreckage of the building with a perfect height difference. The one who released the white lightning was a handsome young man wearing a monocle bronze mirror. The magic book hanging on his waist was still jumping with electric arcs. He stood in the most conspicuous position in the middle. In addition, the strongest aura belonged to a young man with white hedgehog hair. His eyes flashed with the ferocious light of a beast. His body slightly leaned forward and was ready to pounce on Tesla and the others. If one looked carefully, one could see the dragon scales on his back. Some of the dragon scales had been burnt by the lightning. Obviously, this young man resisted Tesla's lightning descent with his body. In addition, there was a tall and slightly charming woman with 8 spider legs on her back. Her charm revealed the ferocity of a poisonous insect. Finally, there was also an inconspicuous, thin young man who looked like a support staff standing in an inconspicuous position. More than half of his body was blocked by the white-haired young man. His aura was very weak. This scene made Tesla and the others a little surprised. It was clearly the hybrid demon. How could there be 4 humans? Strange. The system prompt also gave a hybrid demon team. Defeating them will give a reward of points. At this time, Dimps, who looked the most like a captain, said in a very polite tone, "We are knights from the sacred city. Because we participated in the great expedition, we were forced to come to the Destiny world through the portal in the hybrid demon city. Thus, we were labeled as hybrid demons. You are the engineers from Wangdu, right? Indeed, this identity is easy to cause misunderstandings." However, Tesla and the others did not believe Dimps's words at all. Hybrid demons were extremely cunning in their eyes. Moreover, there was a real hybrid demon aura mixed in the ruins of the building. At this time, Eva received a new perception result. Their bodies are contaminated with a little bit of hybrid demon aura. Moreover, there are toad marks on different parts of their bodies. This is not the result of passing through the hybrid demon transformation door. I suspect that they are captive and brainwashed knights, or a group of fallen knights who lost the war and voluntarily surrendered to the hybrid demons. After receiving this information, Tesla let go of all his worries. He no longer regarded the group of knights from Europe as human, but as hybrid demons. He did not have the slightest pity. "Leave the leader to me. You're free to choose the rest of the targets. Leave that dragon beast boy to me." The bald Richard seemed to like to play wrestling games with younger boys. Abel's appearance and unique beast ears were also to his taste. "Leave that spider to me." When the decomposer Walter chose the target, he did not look at Mia at all. Instead, he carefully took off his gloves. "Eva, you are responsible for watching the support staff of the other side. If there's a chance, kill him. Okay." When little sister Eva looked at the inconspicuous thin young man opposite her, she did not know why, but she had a very uncomfortable feeling. Chapter 889. At the edge of the ruins of the alien city, the Alleles team, led by Novikov, had already planted a strange seed at a certain distance from the periphery. These seeds were connected to each other and could effectively prevent other life forms from crossing the border. When all the arrangements were completed, Professor Novikov used a special long-range vision to look at the center of the ruins that was flashing with lightning. Oh, the ones hiding in the center are actually a group of young humans. From the way one of them is dressed, he should be a knight of Holy City, Novaturna. However, my lungs can't be wrong. They must be related to the hybrid demons. It seems that the comprehensive data analysis was not rushed. Novaturna is the smallest and weakest city among the 3 main cities of the human race. These are the seed breakers in their early 20s who can block Tesla's lightning head-on. They should have stayed in the city to get full protection, but now they have become captives of the hybrid demons. It seems that the destruction of the Holy City is a matter of time. They actually have the leisure to go on an expedition. Is this the pride of the Europeans? Real stupidity. No matter if it was knight, warrior, or engineer, they were essentially humans who improved their strength by cultivating seeds, seed breakers, and the growth of talent trees. The basic system before the seed breakers were similar, but the names were different. Holy City, Crusader, Library, Control, Machinery, and Mysticism, Dragon City. Weapon, 5 Elements, Object Manipulation, Engineering, and Book of Changes, Wangdu. Physics, Chemistry, Biology, Engineering, and Mathematics. However, although the basics were similar, there were hundreds of millions of items in the Destiny world that could affect the development of an individual's ability. At the same time, tens of millions of world systems and characters with unique characteristics would affect the individual. The completely random world selection mode, random item acquisition, different cultivation methods, the choice of seed breakers, and the independence of the talent trees. The accumulation of the above factors led to the development of every participant of fate being different, just like the diversity of species. However, there was a measurement index, and that was fate points. The distribution of fate points would directly determine the level of an individual. The difference in level was especially obvious after the formation of the talent trees. Every talent point invested would bring a great change to an individual's ability, even changing the original ability system. As such, when a low-level individual faced a high-level individual, it was natural for a low-level individual to feel a sense of pressure. The members of the particle radiation team were all grade 4 engineers, which meant that they had unlocked the 4th layer of their talent. Let's take Tesla as an example. The talent tree in his consciousness, lightning, was completely transparent. The vascular bundles in the trunk were all replaced by electric currents, while the branches were formed by frequent electrical discharge phenomena. It was exceptionally spectacular. Level 1. Electric current body allows Tesla's body to be used as an energy transfer medium instead of blood. This allows the user to increase the affinity of electric current and achieve a higher energy transfer efficiency. Level 2. Rapid thinking. Using electric current to assist the brain's thinking, it improves various sensory abilities, consciousness, reaction speed, memory, and learning ability. Level 3. Discharge. Every part of the body can be used as a casting medium to obtain the ability of rapid casting. Level 4. Energy optimization. Rearrange and control the magic circuit. Reduce unnecessary energy consumption. Increase the energy output efficiency of directional magic, and amplify the damage. Judging from the above talents alone, Tesla could be said to be a great killing machine cultivated by Wang Du. His completely dedicated way of thunder and lightning formed a contrast with Han Dong, a knight who had dabbled in all aspects. The difference in level was also clearly perceived by Tesla. Tesla even had a terrible idea in his mind. The opponent's level is estimated to be in the grade 1 or grade 2 range. And he is young. Such a young man should be the future pillar of mankind. But now he has become a captive of the hybrid demons. Could it be that the great expedition announced by the sacred city some time ago was fake? In fact, they have abandoned themselves and formed an alliance with the hybrid demons? Try to keep one alive and see if you can get some information about the situation of the sacred city. The bald Richard stared at the beast-eared boy that he liked very much. Hee, I will hold back. The battle broke out. Tesla took the initiative to weave a huge electric net and threw it at the other party. Demps decisively opened the magic book at his waist and built a water column to connect with the electric net, conducting the electricity to the ground. And at the same time, Tesla, the bald Richard, and the decomposer Walter found their respective targets at the same time and attacked together. In the process of rushing forward, Tesla directly turned into a ball-shaped lightning and instantly got close to Demps. He stabbed his hand into Demp's chest. Boom! Another strong thunder and lightning explosion. The area within 100 meters was affected by the strong thunderstorm, forcing the other people to choose another battlefield. When the thunderstorm ended, a large piece of rock that was completely burnt blocked in front of them. Thunder, water, rock, 3 different magic systems. What's wrong with this knight? Tesla was quite shocked. Tesla, or the whole Wang Du, where he worked, did not advocate dabbling in multiple fields. However, not everyone could dabble in multiple fields at the same time. Most mages were of a single system. Mages like Demps, who mastered 3 types of magic at the same time, were few and far between. Thinking of this, Tesla strengthened the discharge effect, broke the piece of rock, and grabbed at Demps, who was hiding behind him. Demps hurriedly blocked with a glove with an insulating effect. Even in the form of a demon, he still could not keep up with Tesla's speed. The difference in level was soon reflected. However, the one who was in the worst situation was Mia. In just a dozen seconds of fighting, Mia already had a trace of fear in her heart. No matter what form of witchcraft it was, once it got close to Walter, the decomposer, it would be dissolved. He could even achieve, barehanded, and accurately catch the slash of the demon sword that Mia gave him. The female ghost attached to the demon sword let out a painful cry. The demon's sword was damaged. Mia's heartstrings also jumped. What's wrong with this guy's hand? The moment Mia's heart was shaken, Walter Griff sneered. His right hand, which was full of chemical equations, quickly approached. Whoosh. Blackish-purple spider fluid splashed. 3 spider legs that were used for stress defense were instantly evaporated. However, Walter was dissatisfied with this result. As expected of a spider, it can actually rely on instinct to dodge. It's slightly more interesting. In another battlefield, several dragon scales had been forcibly broken, and there were a lot of physical cracks on both arms. The blood of a beast with extremely high energy dripped to the ground. Abel, who had fully activated the bloodline of a beast and a dragon, had white hair that reached the center of his back. It seemed that their strength was equal, and he was evenly matched with the bald Richard. But in reality, only Abel knew the actual situation. Every time a fist collided, an indescribable force would be transmitted to Abel's body, instantly releasing like a bomb. This was the reason why Abel's body was seriously damaged. He could only rely on the strong recovery of a beast and the strength of his body to support himself. If he could not find a breakthrough point, his arms would explode sooner or later. Defeat was inevitable. It was also in a situation where the whole team was almost suppressed. Eva Garcia, the support member of the particle radiation team, stared at the thin young man in the other team with a puzzled expression. His teammates are all at disadvantage. Why didn't he go to support them? Is it because he was already injured when crossing the desert? Let's get rid of this person in advance and leave one alive. A unique quality electromagnetic rifle was held in Eva's hand. It could be switched between close-range shooting and long-range sniping modes. She, who belonged to the Tesla Energy Company, used her own special ability as the energy source of the gun, and a very destructive bullet was shot from the muzzle. It was a rare destructive lightning, and the whole body was red. Once it hit organic matter, it could cause complete destruction at the cellular level. But when the bullet was about to hit the target, it disappeared into thin air. For a moment, the uneasiness in Eva's heart was magnified. Just as she was about to shoot again, she found that the target in the scope had disappeared. Chapter 890. Where did he go? Eva Garcia's title was Renewable Energy. The reason was that her body was quite special. It could be regarded as a humanoid energy generator. She could store energy in her body at any time and in any environment. When her teammates needed it, she could charge them directly. Due to the similarity of attributes, Eva could charge Tesla up to 90%. To a certain extent, Tesla Energy Company had nurtured Eva and allowed her to stay by Tesla's side at all times. To a certain extent, they saw her as a mobile power source that could fully assist the young Tesla. Of course, Eva also had magnetic field perception and unique combat functions. Although she was not as strong as her teammates, she could still protect herself under normal circumstances. Electronic energy rifle, Eva could store energy, adjust, compress, and even trigger a qualitative change in the energy in her body. Eva's attack method was to compress energy and accelerate the collision of electrons to form destructive lightning. In addition to releasing it directly through the palm, the best way was to use a gun as a carrier to accurately fire this energy. No matter what kind of life form it was, it had great lethality. However, the attack she was so proud of failed to hit the target. A moment of surprise even made her lose the target. She spread out her magnetic field perception, but there was no feedback. Why can he disappear into thin air? As long as it's an organism, it's impossible to escape from my magnetic field perception. Even if it's a space method, there should be traces of space fluctuations. Where did he go? Eva was also a battle-hardened engineer. All kinds of data were quickly processed in her brain. Soon, she found a factor that she ignored. Environment. The sand that made up this living desert had the vitality characteristics of the black water and could block all perception methods. Just like when a sandstorm came, they couldn't perceive the outside world at all while hiding in the building. The target didn't disappear, but hid in the sand. It shouldn't be. The gray sand is very invasive. Even Walter couldn't ensure that he wouldn't be affected. If the opponent completely sank into the sand, wouldn't it be suicide? Although Eva didn't believe that the Holy City Knight, whose level was lower than her, could move freely in such sand, she considered the one-in-a-million possibility and the growing sense of uneasiness in her heart. It forced Eva to jump up immediately. In the next second, she left the ground. An explosion occurred in the sand below. Boom! Sand and dust flew everywhere. A young man with bulging blood vessels all over his body leaped out from the sand. The blood flowing in the young man's body contained divinity, and it forcibly expelled the gray sand that had squeezed into his skin. What? Eva's early flight gave her a chance to react. He immediately switched the gun to rapid fire mode, adding destructive lightning to the bullets, and madly shooting at the youth below him. Underworld blood activation. The epic equipment was given to Count to equip. An extremely terrifying, multi-eyed, and indescribable gigantic blood dog was instantly formed. It opened its abyss-like mouth and swallowed all the bullets that were shot at it. In the meantime, when Eva looked directly at the distorted blood dog, she also showed symptoms of mild contamination. Crimson lines appeared around her eyes, and the sound of barking and grinding teeth constantly came from her brain, affecting her thinking. She tried to use herself as the core and consume all her energy to trigger an electrical storm. Ha! A soft, moist, and thick object suddenly stuck to her thigh. Looking down, it turned out to be a star-colored tentacle. Void Transfer, the young man, who was still a certain distance away, instantly rode on her and stuck to her back. A mummy's arm covered in bandages hung in front of her neck, releasing a bone-chilling aura of death, causing the skin tissue on her neck to quickly necrotize. Slowly, a black lip stuck to Eva's ear. It's best to restrain the accumulated energy in your body. Before the explosion, I should be able to completely erase your neck. Okay, fear. At this moment, Eva had no resistance at all. She even had a feeling of back-to-back with the Grim Reaper, and any unnecessary movements could lead to immediate death. The black lips continued to whisper in her ear. What's your name? Eva. Eva Garcia. Miss Eva, we are indeed related to the hybrid demons, but it's not what you think. It's hard to clear the misunderstanding now. I need to borrow you to let my teammates leave safely. After saying that, the black lips completely split open, and a crazy laughter from the abyss spread in the ruins. This caused the participants who were fighting to stop for a moment, and they all looked over. Eva. Tesla instantly gave up the battle in front of him and signaled his teammates to stop. He moved to a position about 10 meters away from Eva with the body of electricity. In Tesla's eyes, Eva was a partner who grew up with him and could even be regarded as a relative who had no blood relationship with him. You're the captain. Tesla gritted his teeth and stared at Han Dong, who had a black smiley face smeared on it, blaming himself for making the wrong decision. Ha! Yes, I didn't say I'm not the captain. Brother Demps is the vice captain, and he's good at talking, so he's responsible for talking to you. Who knew that you would directly start the battle without giving us a chance to talk? Now, I may need to borrow Miss Eva. Mr. Tesla, please make a path for us. When we're 1,000 meters away, Miss Eva will be free. Impossible. How can you guarantee that you'll release the hostages? It's up to you to believe it or not. If you don't agree, I'll have to kill Miss Eva on the spot, and then let us continue to fight here. What do you think? At this moment, Han Dong's eyebrows twitched slightly, and an inexplicable sense of danger swept through his heart. Magic Eye discovered a bald, hunchbacked, middle-aged man who was about 50 meters behind Han Dong. The aura emitted from his body was no weaker than Tesla's. Level 5 engineer, Professor Novikov. Without knowing the ability of this person, Han Dong might be in danger. At this moment, whoosh, a clear stream of water flowed out from the sand, and a woman with disheveled hair slowly emerged from the water. Her face couldn't be seen clearly. She just happened to be standing back to back with Han Dong. The eyes hidden in the hair were staring at Professor Novikov in the distance, stopping him from trying to sneak an attack. The ancient aura emitted by this woman made all the engineers present tremble. A drop of electrified sweat flowed down along Tesla's cheek, and he couldn't help but say, Atavistic body, hybrid demon. Chapter 891. Fate Matching Mechanism. It would not give anyone a chance to take advantage of the situation, but would also not tilt the balance in favor of any party. Even if Han Dong and the others entered through the gate of transformation, they would only be labeled as hybrid demons and would be targeted by the system to some extent. However, the most basic fate matching would not be affected. The 5 teams that came to the world of Prometheus would have a strength difference of no more than 20% based on the calculation of the fate matching mechanism. At the same time, the 5 teams that came here were secretly labeled as excellent by the Destiny Realm. It meant that the members of the team were excellent in terms of talent and potential and were very valuable in training. Accordingly, Prometheus was also a medium to large world with a lot of hidden opportunities. Whether it was Wangdu's Tesla, Novikov, or the mysterious monk from Dragon City, or Nicholas from the Holy City, they were all talented people who were focused on training in each city. The meeting of geniuses would definitely promote the growth of both sides. Unless one of them had completely transcended the concept of genius and could only be described as monster, then the result would be that only one side could develop. Due to the difference in level, the Raven Whisper team was almost completely suppressed. Even Demps was in a difficult battle. When Mia faced the Decomposer, Walter, she was even threatened on the level of life. If she was not careful, she would die. Except for the ancient witchcraft, all of Mia's abilities were useless in front of the Decomposer. The Decomposer, Walter, even was a little scared of his own hands that were full of chemical equations. He was very careful when he used them. However, Han Dong had already expected that his team would be completely suppressed. There was a difference of 3 levels, and the opponents were all Wang Du's elites. It was impossible to fight them head-on. As long as his teammates were not fatally injured, the battle plan would be successful. Han Dong used his aura to hide his appearance and cooperated with Demps to launch a powerful counterattack at the beginning of the battle, thus misleading the opponent's judgment of strength. The overall plan was as follows. 1. Evaluation. Han Dong, disguised as an auxiliary member, and secretly observed and evaluated the overall strength of the particle radiation team. If they weren't strong enough, Han Dong would choose to cooperate with Lord Meritus and kill them all. If the intensity was high or very high, they would enter the second step of the plan. 2. Hostage. Find the weakest person in the opposing team, Eva Garcia, and instantly suppress and coerce her. If Han Dong encountered a troublesome situation that was difficult for him to deal with alone during the coercion period, Suzerain Meritus would appear. A battle broke out. Han Dong almost couldn't hold himself back and was prepared to protect Mia. Fortunately, Mia's spider nerves kicked in at the critical moment, allowing her to survive. The information collected through the magic eye proved that the overall strength of the particle radiation team exceeded expectations. The overall strength of the team could be described as strong, especially Captain Tesla and Decomposer Walter. These two people's destructive power was quite terrifying, and their combat power had not been fully displayed. Once they fully unleashed their power, they could even threaten Han Dong's life and confront the atavistic body head-on. Not to mention, in the current battlefield, Wang Du's team was not only Tesla's team. Meritus's appearance was extremely effective. She immediately intimidated the mountain people in the ruins. Moreover, she appeared back-to-back, sticking close to Han Dong, and at the same time, the situation of coercion of the hostage could not be broken. Mr. Tesla, please make way for us. According to what we said before, as long as we are more than 1,000 meters away, we will naturally release Miss Eva. If you don't agree or play any tricks, I can only kill Miss Eva or carry out a consciousness level forced enslavement, and then force a war with you. I'll give you 5 seconds to make a choice. 5. As soon as the countdown began, Tesla immediately looked at the bald professor not far away. Professor Novikov, withdraw from the boundary of the ruins. Let them go. Okay. Novikov had his own ideas. The appearance of the atavistic body made the current battlefield uncontrollable. He quickly calculated the danger of this battle. He must not engage in a dangerous battle before arriving at Shindu. If the important chess piece in his hand was destroyed, it would be difficult to achieve the follow-up plan. Moreover, if his manpower was consumed here, or if he was seriously injured, the other two teams that had not yet appeared would have the advantage. All of this was disadvantageous for Wang Du's two teams. Novikov decisively withdrew the strange seeds that had just been arranged and pointed out a safe evacuation route for Han Dong and others. Mr. Tesla and Professor Novikov, please stay in the ruins and don't make any movements. After a distance of 1,000 meters, I will naturally release them. Han Dong signaled with his eyes to let his teammates leave first. He and Meritus held the hostages and stayed at the back of the team. When they completely left the ruins and set foot on the Maverick Desert again, Eva, who was threatened by Han Dong, said faintly, "You will probably implant some kind of polluting seed that can't be removed or modify my brain or body, right?" Or you could just kill me. Anyway, at this distance, Tesla and others can't catch up with you. There's a saying in Chinese, a gentleman's word cannot be taken back. Since I said it, I naturally have to fulfill it. See you in Shindu, Miss Eva. The mummy slowly moved its arm away and waved goodbye to Eva. It didn't have any hostility at all. Why? Eva was puzzled. Her impression of the hybrid demons was a group of despicable creatures that polluted the world. It was impossible for them to let her go so easily. When Eva wanted to look back, she only saw the back of Nicholas and the atavistic body of the hybrid demon. She could even faintly hear the two of them talking about something interesting. It seemed that they had a good relationship. For a moment, some of Eva's ideas seemed to have been broken. Whoosh! Lightning flashed. Tesla immediately came to Eva's side and asked about the situation. Tesla, don't worry, I'm fine. They didn't do anything to me. They even avoided polluting me. It's strange. I can't understand why there are such hybrid demons. Perspective change. After successfully escaping, Han Dong and the others walked for tens of thousands of meters in the desert and found a dilapidated alien sealed building to heal and recuperate. As soon as they stopped, Meritus immediately burst out in dissatisfaction. Nicholas, why did you run away? You already have the initiative. Kill the woman for energy supply first, and then we will slowly deal with this group of inferior humans. Isn't it better to eliminate these risks in advance? This will help us in the later stages of the game and find items that can help with the Bufo. Han Dong shook his head. It's not that simple. Miss Mary, you should have noticed some problems, right? Even if this group of engineers from Wangdu goes against you, they may not necessarily be suppressed. Only that electric kid, the hunchbacked old man, and the young man with some strange hands can make me a little uncomfortable. If we really fight, do you think I'm afraid of them? Han Dong looked at Demps, who was healing with water magic. His whole body was burned by electric current, and even his nerves and magic circuits were damaged to a certain extent. This Tesla from Wangdu suppressed his ability with an epic quality insulating jacket. This is the first time I've met such a human. I estimate that if Tesla removes all the restrictions of the jacket, there will be a large number of casualties. We may have a large number of casualties in a short period of time. Besides, that hunchbacked man had a lot of secrets, and we are about to fight here in advance. The ending will be unbearable for us. Moreover, this fate event is not so simple. Keep these two powerful Wangdu teams. Maybe at a certain juncture, we can use their strength to solve some problems. The seed has been planted. I hope it can be used. Chapter 892. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Sooner or later, I'll kill all these guys. Meritus, who was hiding in the dark, carefully observed the battle that happened in the alien ruins. She was quite disdainful of the situation where the young knights were completely suppressed by the opponents. But at the last moment, Han Dong suddenly attacked. He used Bloodhound, the treasure of fate, Blood Oathkeeper's master, Ragorian's skull, damaged, and the second talent, Tentacle Lover. The Bloodhound constructed by the three talents almost reached the strength of atavistic body. It could instantly suppress the opponent. This performance also shocked Meritus. Although Han Dong, as an emissary, established contact with many ancient beings, his level was not high. Being able to exert such a strong tentacle ability in a low-level state was enough to make Meritus pay more attention. Therefore, she added a note in her mating partner's notebook. Tentacles are very powerful. When the communication ended, Han Dong immediately noticed the problem of his teammates. Demps and Abel were fine. Physical injuries could be recovered with enough time by relying on healing magic and self-regeneration. Abel was the kind of person who became stronger as he fought. Once his body recovered, he would be stronger than before. However, Mia's condition was not good. In addition to the physical injuries, she was seriously traumatized. In fact, even Han Dong did not expect that there would be a member in the particle radiation team who was more destructive than the Captain Tesla. And Mia happened to bump into him. In order to survive, The 8 spider legs that Mia had spent several years cultivating as an insect possessor and expended the insect essence to obtain were now completely destroyed. If Han Dong acted a little later, Mia might really die. The shadow of death lingered in Mia's heart. After drinking the herbal liquid with pain-relieving effect, Mia leaned against the wall and closed her eyes for a short rest. "Do you need it?" Mia opened her eyes at the familiar voice. She saw Han Dong was already sitting by her side, hinting her to rest on his shoulder. "I can do it alone." When Mia said this, Han Dong immediately knew the seriousness of the problem. In the past, as long as he used the intimate relationship between the two of them to kidnap Mia, no matter how bad her mood was, it would immediately improve. At present, Mia's eyes revealed a sense of fear and avoidance. At this moment, a strong right arm grabbed Mia's shoulder and pulled her over, forcing her to be his shoulder pillow. It's all right. It's already a miracle that he was able to hold on for so long. Han Dong was a bachelor who only knew how to do scientific research when he was alive. His thesis was indeed decent, but he had no experience in the field of men and women. At the same time, he tried to console Mia by recalling some scenes from the movies. However, when Han Dong forcefully uttered such a line, which was completely devoid of emotion, it seemed rather out of place. "Huh." Mia couldn't hold back for a while and laughed instead. "How can you coax a girl like this? Besides, I almost died." The other party was a 4th-grade engineer and an elite engineer. He was even the guy that Lord Meritus specially named. According to my observation, that little brother's hands were not even fully controlled by himself, and he used them carefully. It was a pair of hands that had the ability to completely erase not only your witchcraft, but I'm afraid that even my death magic and tentacle ability would be erased. Mia nodded. Well, just a touch, and the spider leg that I spent years to form was gone. Every time I touched it, I felt like I was standing on the edge of death. I promise you, if you encounter any danger in the future, I will protect you at the first opportunity. Han Dong gave a strong guarantee because she was amused. Mia, with a smile on her face, had already fallen asleep on his shoulder. There was even a strand of venomous saliva at the corner of her mouth. She was sleeping soundly. The shadow of death was mostly gone. After a highly stressful battle and a few hours of traveling in the desert, Mia was already exhausted when she hid in this abandoned building. Just when Han Dong was about to take a nap, he immediately felt a strange gaze. Miss Meritus, whose body was half submerged in the pool, was looking at him, obviously concerned about the possibility of the two mating. There were only 36 hours left before the time limit to go to Shundu after a period of rest. Han Dong and the others continued their journey, but they fell into a state of confusion. The first way to find Shundu was based on the detection of the life gradient by the magic eye, which was to follow the direction with the most vitality in the Maverick Desert. Now, Han Dong seemed to have come to the central area of the Maverick Desert. There was no life gradient here, and the total amount of vitality in all the sand grains was the same, and they didn't see any outline of Shindu at all. After 10 hours of aimless searching, there was no clue at all. The depletion of the water avoidance bead was faster than expected, and the water in it had been depleted. Lord Meritus was gradually showing signs of weakness due to drought, and if they encountered other teams at this time, the consequences would be extremely serious. After a long time of traveling in this gray desert without any reference, everyone's thinking was completely fixed, and it was difficult to come up with an effective solution. Dimps, come here. If they continue to try their luck like this, they would not be able to find the entrance to Shindu. Do you have any ideas? After walking in the desert for a long time, my thinking is frozen. Can you give me a brain massage set? Do you want an extracranial or intracranial massage? Oh, you can still go in. Let's give it a try. Get ready, it might be a bit exciting. When a skillful finger was used on the back of Han Dong's head, a hidden sixth finger directly penetrated the skull and went deep into the skull to massage the brain surface. The feeling of ascension made Han Dong's body twitch, and his mind was immediately freed from the state of confusion, jumping out of the fixed thinking of finding Shundu and found the key point. Wait, Our direction is not wrong, or else we would not have met the other two teams on the way. Since there is no life gradient in this area, is it possible that we are currently in the range of Shindu, the Grayfield Desert with the lowest altitude? There are a lot of buildings buried in the Grayfield Desert. Underground river, black water. Everything that was important on this planet was at the lower end. Is Shundu under our feet? Miss Mary, take out the pass and try. Following Handong's call, Meritus took out the black water fetus egg that was stored in her body and placed it on the surface of the sand. Russell, with the fetus egg as the center, the surrounding sand particles began to rotate rhythmically, and the sand began to tremble slightly. Slowly, the area of influence expanded from the first few seconds to hundreds of meters. Something is coming from below. It's so big. Suddenly, a supergiant sandworm with a trunk that could reach the sky appeared from below, and the width of its mouth alone was more than 1,000 meters. It did not allow Han Dong and the others to resist and directly fell into the sandworm's body. Chapter 893. The size of this sandworm could even be compared with Ghoul King M.O. in the original world. Han Dong and the others who were swallowed were immediately affected by an irresistible thought. Even Meritus, who had the atavistic body, could not resist and fell into a state of confusion in less than 3 seconds. At the same time, there was a manic hurricane in the almost invisible mouth, which caused the confused team members to be completely blown away. Only Han Dong could hold on for a while, because he had just received the brain massage from Demps, plus the support of the crazy laughter ability. He resisted the first thought invasion. Such behavior also attracted the attention of the sandworm. The second wave of thought attack instantly expanded to 10 times the strength of the first wave. It instantly caused Han Dong to bleed and lose consciousness. Although the crazy laughter ability was perfect, there was a certain limit, and its strength would grow with the brain. At present, the mental attack given by the sandworm had exceeded the maximum limit of the faceless skull LV3. I think this is the necessary process to go to Shandu. There is no need to make a futile resistance. So be it. Just when Han Dong gave up resistance and his consciousness was blurred, suddenly, a figure that was blown by the hurricane flashed in front of his eyes. Using the last shackle made of black sand, he tied the figure that floated by to himself. At least, he had to ensure that one of his teammates stayed with him, which could effectively improve the efficiency of the initial exploration of Shun. Han Dong's consciousness was soon completely overwhelmed, and his vision was dark. He let the hurricane blow him to a certain place in the sandworm's body. In the dark, a low voice resounded in Han Dong's head, saying 4 words in ancient Egyptian, Anubis. A jackal mark that was emitting black smoke gradually appeared in his consciousness. This is, when the mark completely emerged, Han Dong suddenly woke up. Clang, his hands, feet, and neck were bound by cold chains. Han Dong, who gradually woke up, found that he was imprisoned in a dark cell. There were also more than a dozen humans who were only covered by rags, but most of them were still relatively strong, and their eyes flashed with a savage light. Han Dong also immediately noticed a familiar face. It was a woman with curly hair who was only covered by a linen cloth. She was curled up in a corner and had yet to wake up. Was the one who was tied up by me before her consciousness was completely confused over Lord Meritus? Who would have thought that they would go to Luoyang using the method of being swallowed by sandworms? Everyone was scattered in different areas of Luoyang. He could only hope that they were all fine. However, this is also a good experience for everyone. When Han Dong tried to break free from the shackles binding his body, he immediately felt that something was wrong. What kind of material are these shackles made of? They can actually seal off my abilities? The shackles on his wrists flashed with a black light, and there was even a slight squirming phenomenon on the surface. The shackles seemed to be alive. The creation of the shackles was obviously related to the black water in his current worldview. The faceless skull was unable to activate the prison characteristic and only retained a few tentacles and camouflage abilities. The arms and body were similar and could only display about 5% of their strength. Perhaps he could try to escape, but where could he escape to in this state? More importantly, the destiny equipment was gone. Whether it was the raven staff hidden in Han Dong's body or the underworld blood necklace on his chest, they were all gone. This was the treasure that Han Dong risked his life to exchange for. If he really lost it, Han Dong would inevitably use his authority to directly complain to the Black Tower world. Just as Han Dong was trying to figure out what was going on, a familiar system notification rang in his ears. You have successfully reached Luoyang, a Kamigan. 1. Due to the special rules of the Destiny world and the needs of the main storyline, all the Destiny equipment you carry have been sealed. As your status in Luoyang increases, the Destiny equipment will gradually be unsealed. 2. The slave shackles on your body are specially made in Luoyang. They can effectively suppress various abilities and can only be removed when you are completely free from the slave status. If you forcibly remove the shackles while being a slave, you will be regarded as a rebel by Luoyang. 3. Current status, lower slave. I don't know why, but I always feel that the slavery system here is very deceptive. It's not easy to get rid of it. Moreover, the system only gave an initial setting and still did not directly give the main storyline. In all likelihood, we will have to trigger various plots in Luoyang by ourselves. We can only take one step at a time, because before going to Prometheus, Han Dong first went to Inyang Road as an observer, so he had already adapted to this large degree of suppression in advance. After a while, Meritus also woke up. With the prompt given by the system, she slowly calmed down, but it was very difficult to adapt to the power suppression. Now, she could only display the power of a heretic before becoming a hybrid demon. Moreover, Meritus' situation was worse than Han Dong's. With a cute little round face and a moist body, she immediately attracted the attention of the other slaves. Pairs of evil eyes were staring at her, and even disgusting saliva flowed out in front of her face. Here, Han Dong noticed a detail. The saliva flowing out of the slaves' mouths was actually black. In addition, this dark and damp cell was different. Although the uneven walls were made of stone, the lines on the surface were more like the cavity of a living creature, and there were also some metal pieces inlaid in a regular pattern. The bars that sealed the cell were not ordinary iron bars, but a kind of black hard object similar to the bones of a living creature. The style of this cell was similar to the alien ruins found in the Greyfield Desert, and it contained a strong mechanical biological style, H.R. Ziggy style. Fortunately, the slaves were all shackled and kept a certain distance from each other. Otherwise, things would be really troublesome. At this moment, a series of strange footsteps came from afar and slowly approached. Han Dong had never heard this kind of footsteps before. It was similar to the bones of a living creature stepping and rubbing on the ground covered with fleshy membrane. It was quite uncomfortable. As the footsteps approached, the slaves who had all the intentions on Meritus began to tremble. Han Dong even read a fear of death from their eyes. The one who came to the door of the cell was a warden wearing a biological exoskeleton armor. A little of the exposed arm was pure black, and the whole body exuded a strong vitality. This warden was not the alien race that created humans in the movie Prometheus, the White Giant. It was a human. Chapter 894. The prison officer exuded an extremely frightening aura. Han Dong's ability was greatly suppressed, and all his destiny equipment were sealed. If he provoked this person, only death would await him. Slaves in room 37. Today it's your turn to go on stage. Those who can survive in the Colosseum may be promoted to intermediate slave. If your performance is excellent, you'll also be eligible to be sold. When they heard the two special words intermediate slave and qualification to be sold, the slaves in the cell seemed a little excited. But when they thought about some things, they could not help but tremble, and the fear in their eyes was difficult to eliminate. Line up in order and follow me. Colosseum, in a slave country, it was common to use slaves to perform Colosseum, and it was also a mode of entertainment for the tyrants. However, the current Colosseum was certainly not dealing with ordinary beasts. There were a total of 21 slaves in room 37, and most of them had a relatively strong physique. Moreover, Han Dong also felt a strong vitality reaction from the slaves, and also observed some aberrations caused by the black water. This showed that they had stronger combat power than ordinary people. However, in the case of 21 slaves appearing together, most of them still revealed a look of fear that they were about to die. It could be seen that the beast in the Colosseum would be an extremely terrible life form. During the journey to the Colosseum, Han Dong deliberately walked with Meritus to prevent other slaves from touching her. Of course, Han Dong was not worried that Meritus would be taken advantage of, but worried that Mary's killing intent would be aroused and something would happen in advance. The black door, shaped like a rib, slowly descended. The slaves were escorted by the warden to an open circular field, about half the size of a football field. The warden here removed the connection restrictions of the bracelet and the anklet so that the slaves could move freely, but the shackles were still worn in a ring shape, and the ability restrictions could not be removed. Looking around, the black and white auditorium was almost full. However, Han Dong quickly saw that the real audience was actually a minority. These audience members also brought slaves, and there was more than one slave. There might not be more than 20 people in the audience. Luoyang seems to be a country where slavery is the main rule, and this system is deeply rooted. There is even a detailed hierarchical and management distribution model. Han Dong observed that an audience member carried 10 slaves with him. One of them was an extremely beautiful woman who was always by his side. The other 9 were strong bodyguards who wore exoskeleton armor in the style of biological machinery. Miss Mary, you have to disguise yourself a little. Let some lumps or pustules grow on your face, or let your figure change. Your image is not bad in human aesthetics. Try your best to change your image to avoid being treated as an alternative slave. There was a similar system of slavery in Toad City. Meritus knew very well what Han Dong meant by alternative slaves. Thinking that she might be used as a prop by inferior human beings, Meritus quickly revealed her toad form. Pustules grew on her face enough to achieve the effect of disfigurement, completely suppressing her cute appearance. Our ability is severely suppressed. From the expressions of these slaves, we may encounter more troublesome existences here. Follow me closely. Okay, Meritus still couldn't fully adapt to her weakness, and there was some fear in her heart. His pride as a feudal lord was mostly gone, and he hurriedly leaned against Han Dong. At this moment, the ribbed black door opposite the Colosseum slowly rose. They thought there would be a monster similar to Alien rushing directly into the Colosseum. Who knew that it was still a human who came out of the door? A thin man with deep-eyed bags who even seemed to have difficulty walking. Such a frail image gave off an indescribable feeling of strangeness. The warden standing on the side of the field said to the slaves, "As long as you can kill the target, you will be promoted to intermediate slave and will be able to obtain the right to sell yourself." As soon as these words came out, some people were immediately tempted. Moreover, the target was not a terrifying monster like they imagined. If they could really kill it, their future life would become beautiful. Thinking of this, a man with a thick beard rushed straight toward the target. During the sprint, the man's arm was still undergoing deformation. Some kind of black substance was reconstructing his arm. A sharp black tissue formed on the surface of the arm, like a black blade. This scene was seen by Han Dong, who was hiding in the back. Recalling the black saliva flowing from the slave's mouth, he could basically confirm one thing. Sure enough, the humans living in Shindu, even the lowest slaves, have black water flowing in their bodies. Moreover, they can control the black water to a certain extent and change the direction of the body. Their bodily functions are far beyond ordinary people. However, this degree of distortion in the background of Shindu is just an ordinary person. Han Dong carefully watched the upcoming duel, trying to see the particularity of the target. The man with the black knife had arrived in front of the target. He had practiced the cutting skills in private for more than 10 years and immediately used them. Longitudinal cutting. The black water induced the cell tissue to form a knife, which was stronger than steel. The knife easily cut the skull of the target, and even because of the excessive force, the knife directly cut from the skull to the abdomen. It clearly showed the human body profile to the people present. The target should have died, but because of the deep cut of the body, some kind of terrible potential was completely activated. Because the left and right body was separated, the exposed epidermis, dermis, and internal organs grew twisted teeth. The cut left and right body turned into a mouth. A horizontal bite. The speed was incredible. In the blink of an eye, the upper body of the low-level slave was directly gone. Only the lower body was still twitching slightly on the ground, and the blood mixed with black spots had slowly flowed out. The teeth that grew between the target's body slowly retreated into the body. The left and right body quickly completed the healing and returned to the fragile image of an ordinary person. It was also at this time. The warden explained to the audience present, "This is our new product. The regeneration, destructive power, and intelligence are higher than the original beast. Therefore, the odds of this game have been adjusted. The current odds are 5-9-1. You still have a chance to bet. If you're interested in this new product, you can privately inquire about the price after the duel. It is a very good choice to raise it as a watchdog, and it can also reflect your noble status." Chapter 895. To deal with a highly regenerative monster, the best way was to use death magic to directly destroy all the cells in its body and completely kill it. But ability suppression -95%, the black sand, used in this state was quite bad both in terms of quality and quantity. It was estimated that it could only destroy one arm. If it could not be completely annihilated, it would be meaningless. If he wanted to win, he must find the weakness. According to the warden, since it was a new product, it naturally had its unstable side. Moreover, judging from the weak appearance of the human form, there must be something incomplete. Even if there is a weakness, it will cost a lot to find it. Otherwise, this kind of thing will not be performed on stage. There are two ways now. Avoid battle. Avoid battle as much as possible in the early stage. Carefully observe the battle between other slaves and the monster. Collect as much information as possible, including attack patterns, habits, and weaknesses, as possible. 2. Leader. Obtain leadership in advance. Organize all the low-level slaves that are scattered like sand and launch an attack on a monster. In the case that the slaves all have the black water mutation, the second method is more suitable. Make the best use of everything to increase the possibility of survival. Thinking of this, Han Dong raised his voice and shouted in marked Egyptian, "Everyone come over, and I will arrange the battle plan. I will try to keep everyone alive." Without establishing the leadership in advance, one person immediately jumped out and said in a disdainful tone, "Who are you to listen to?" not waiting for the subordinate slave to finish speaking. Han Dong's eyes showed a fierce light similar to that of a veteran. He directly shot a black substance from his left hand and pierced the man's heart. Although these slaves could control the black water to a certain extent, they were still human. The consequences of a broken heart were difficult to bear. One move to kill. For the slaves who were at the lowest level and did not have much leadership authority, the most direct and fast way to seize the leadership was strength display. However, the effect was beyond Han Dong's expectations. Priest. There is a priest among the slaves. The effect of Han Dong's black sand piercing the heart was not only to gain the right to the collar, but also to the attention of the audience and even the warden. One of the spectators even stood up and tried to negotiate with the staff of the Colosseum. He wanted to stop the match and buy Han Dong at high price. The warden stared at the slave who had fallen to the ground and the flesh on his chest that was gradually eroding away. He said in a low voice, "It's the power of Anubis." At the same time, He ordered the staff around him to temporarily stop the sale of this batch of slaves and let the competition continue. Priest. Could it be that magic had a special meaning in the holy capital? Just nice. In this way, the remaining slaves all gathered towards Han Dong. I need a sturdy net with a length and width of at least 4 meters. Can you make it with the black water? I can, but I might not be enough by myself. I can do it too. I'll help too. The identity of the priest made this group of people see a ray of hope for survival, and Han Dong's first order was not to let them die, but it was a plan that sounded useful. The process of weaving the net was similar to the first slave building a black blade on his arm. Through the black water in the body, the cell proliferation and keratinization were intensified, and a tough black net was slowly woven. Fortunately, the movement of the monster was slow enough to give everyone enough time to weave the net. Miss Mary, try not to have too many combat movements in this game. Just leave it all to me. If the two of us show magic at the same time, it may lead to a fight between different slave owners, causing us to be forced to separate. Well, for such inferior creatures, I don't want to do anything. Since you are eager to show off, I'll give you the opportunity. There seem to be a lot of slave owners in the stands who are interested in you. If they buy you back, it will be more convenient for you to explore the holy capital. Han Dong did not reply much. In fact, there was another reason why he did not let Meritus do it. From the beginning of the cooperation, Han Dong had not really seen her ability, and it was not easy to arrange it. The tough black net with a width of 5 meters had been completed. After Han Dong gave the battle plan, everyone acted together. The black net was cast. The slow-moving target was easily shrouded in it. Immediately, the more powerful slaves pressed the black net, limiting the target's movement. At this time, according to Han Dong's instructions, the slaves used the distortion of the black water to build spears on their arms to attack the target as far away as possible. Swish, a black spear passed through the net and pierced the target's body. These attacks were not random, and they were all aimed at the theoretically fatal part as much as possible. Han Dong stood at the corner of the black net and observed carefully. Heart puncture, ineffective. Brain puncture, ineffective. Digestive system, ineffective. Reproductive system, ineffective. No matter what part was damaged, the target was still expressionless, and there was no decline in vitality. Moreover, the pierced part also grew a multiplying mouth, biting the black net hard. It would not last long. Before everyone could consider how to repair the black net, a worse situation appeared. An arm was cut off by a spear. When the arm fell to the ground, it immediately evolved into an independent life. Through an opening in the black net that had been bitten, it jumped to the nearest slave. The speed was so fast that it avoided the attack of the spear and jumped to the face of the slave. The palm and the face were attached. In less than a second, it completed complete control of the slave. Swish! Instead, it waved the spear in its hand and directly pierced the head of the slave, controlling the black net. The black net also slowly showed a trend of losing control. At this moment, a cloud of black sand came and covered the arm like a swarm of bees, eroding death. As Han Dong initially estimated, it was still possible to destroy an arm. As the arm was completely broken, the slave under control also fell to the ground and died. Han Dong immediately rushed to the slave under control and performed a super-fast autopsy. I said that such a fast body control is not connected to the brain, but the control of the secondary nerve center, which is the spine. Since the spine is the core, is the key and weakness of the target also in the spine? Recalling the situation of the target being pierced and cut, its spine always remained intact, and the bone hardness was harder than the black water structure of the slaves. Everyone stop attacking and pull in the net. Before the black net was completely destroyed, everyone grabbed the corners and pulled hard to pull in the net. Han Dong braced himself and tried to activate the little magic eye in a suppressed state. As a crack formed on the forehead and the eyes opened slightly, Han Dong staggered and almost fainted. The activation of the little magic eye consumed too much energy and caused the brain to be dizzy. At this moment, a cold soft palm was placed on Han Dong's back. A stream of clear water with chaotic energy was injected into the body, charging Han Dong. "Thank you, Miss Mary." Han Dong, who had recovered from the dizziness, rushed toward the strange shape in the center of the black net. When he was about 2 meters away, the target bound in the black net looked at Han Dong with a very strange look. This kind of look contained both anger and a kind of begging, as if begging Han Dong to kill him. Suddenly, the target opened his mouth and faced Han Dong. It was similar to the attack of the classic monster, Alien. Whoosh! A pitch-black column-shaped object with a sharp structure was instantly shot from the mouth. The speed was so fast that it could instantly kill any slave present. See-through, even if Han Dong saw the attack in advance through the little magic eye, it was difficult for his body to keep up. Whoosh! The column-shaped tongue penetrated Han Dong's left shoulder. Dying, Han Dong endured the pain and lifted the index finger of his left hand. The black sand turned into a sharp blade and vertically cut off the disgusting column-shaped tongue. This hunting tongue seemed to be a very important part of the target, causing it to fall into a hideous state of extreme pain. Seize the opportunity. The power contained in Han Dong's right arm was fully activated. A little holy blood stimulated the G virus to intensify. When the iconic GI was formed, the right arm was completely lost. Tearing the skin of the target's back with his sharp claws, he grabbed the spine overflowing with black light. Gritting his teeth, he pulled with all his strength. Whoosh! Bone extraction, in front of the whole audience and the warden. Han Dong forcibly peeled off the entire 1-meter-long black spine, and the target also died on the spot. However, the black spine in Han Dong's hand was like a centipede frantically pulling. It seemed to be a living prop for Han Dong to use. Chapter 896. Acquired Slave Equipment. John's Spine Quality. The slave equipment is a special equipment in the world of Prometheus. It will not be restricted by the seal and shun due once obtained. It can be used normally. Type: living armor. Quality, equipment special effect, frowny face exoskeleton. When the user wears the spine, it will form an exoskeleton protective layer that adapts to the individual. The protective layer can be applied to the whole body, or it can be applied to a part of the body. It can increase the defense, regeneration, and mobility of the part covered by the spine to a certain extent. Source: John is a poor slave who was born with severe bone hyperplasia. The spine was completely exposed when he was born, almost restricting all his basic activities. Being removed from the spine may be a kind of relief for him. At the same time when the spine was removed, Han Dong received a special destiny prompt from Shun, since it was a living equipment recognized by the system. Han Dong was completely relieved. Letting the spine crawl on his body like a living insect, the spine quickly came to the area of Han Dong's back and formed a spine external connection on the center line of the back. A thick black nerve was connected to Han Dong's spine and the back of his head, completing the nerve connection. Now, as long as Han Dong controlled it with his consciousness, he could make John's spine quality, derive an exoskeleton to cover the whole body, or it could be applied to the zombie arm alone. It had to be said that in the case of limited ability and sealed destiny equipment, this kind of living equipment was really useful and could greatly improve Han Dong's combat ability. In the arena, because of Han Dong's plan and active performance, more than half of the slaves who should have all died survived. Their eyes were full of worship and gratitude. Even Meritus showed a surprised look. She didn't expect Han Dong to be able to adapt and use such a weak body in such a short time. When the cylindrical tongue was shot out from the monster's mouth, Meritus was also sweating. At the same time, because of Han Dong's positive performance, the audience, who were originally only here for entertainment and gambling, became interested and began to ask about Han Dong's price. There was even an audience member who was dressed in golden clothing and seemed to have a certain status who specifically asked to buy Han Dong. However, I'm sorry, but this slave with the characteristics of a priest is not for sale. If you're interested in other slaves, you can go to our slave sales department to purchase them. The warden directly denied Han Dong's right to sell in front of the audience. The surviving slaves were taken to a special area by the warden. Except for Han Dong, the rest of the slaves would be sent to the market. Because they survived in the Colosseum and assisted in killing the beast, the low-level slaves would obtain the right to be sold. Even if it was bought by a relatively ordinary slave owner, it would definitely be 100 times more comfortable than staying here. On the way to the market, this group of people repeatedly thanked Han Dong. "Can you make her stay? She is useful to me." In front of the warden, Han Dong pointed to Meritus, who had a lot of pustules on her face. He was also very particular in his choice of words, using the words useful. The warden stared at the female slave who was almost disfigured and didn't show any obvious performance in the game just now. Even if she was sent to the market, it would be difficult to find a buyer. So he nodded and acquiesced to Han Dong's pleading. According to the regulations, you will become an intermediate slave and enjoy a certain amount of freedom. You can move freely in the public area of Chengdu and do basic work to earn money. You can also put your name in the slave market and wait for the slave owner to buy you. Hearing this, Han Dong was surprised. It was the first time he heard of such a strange slavery system. Isn't this the same as ordinary citizens? The identity of ordinary citizens in Chengdu is still just a slave? What kind of identity does the slave owner in this country need to achieve? It's really interesting. A city with serious slavery can still function normally. It is probably directly related to Blackwater. Just when Han Dong was ready to use his identity as an intermediate slave to take Meritus to Chengdu for a stroll, the warden suddenly gave a condition. As one of the managers of the Colosseum, I want you to join us as an employer. We will pay a certain amount of employment fees on a regular basis. At the same time, you will also enjoy the freedom of an intermediate slave and will not be restricted too severely. Excuse me, what do you want to hire me for? Training. Your priest potential is worthy of our training. At the same time, we will also let you help manage the beast or assist in completing some tasks that only a priest can do. Han Dong could see that the warden valued him very much, so he gave such preferential treatment. With an organization like the Colosseum as a backer, it would also be convenient for Han Dong to infiltrate the whole Chengdu faster and obtain a complete victory in this destiny event. I have a few questions can I ask in advance? Go ahead. The warden seemed to have a very good impression of Han Dong and was very patient. It's my first time in Chengdu, so I don't know the specific slavery system. And what do you mean by priest? Can you tell me in advance? Slavery is the root of Shun, due to be exact. There are no slave owners here at all. Everyone is a slave. The specific slavery system will be understood when you join us. As for priest, it refers to the human who can extract black water energy and use it for magic. There are many such people in the holy capital who have similar priest physiques, but there are still differences between the good and the bad. If they can only use some common magic, the Colosseum will not be interested in them. The magic you showed seems to have a certain connection with the Grim Reaper, Anubis, so it is very worthy of our training. Han Dong did not expect that the other party would say all his value as soon as he arrived. It really looked like a company with a conscience. Last question. After being hired by you, can I bring her with me? The intermediate slave has the right to buy the lower slave. Because she has just experienced the battle and survived, the price will be slightly higher. It is about 1 month of your employment fee. In addition, we will pay you a one-time fee of 3 months. Deal. Han Dong followed a series of signatures and became a special employee of the Colosseum. As for the famous Lord Meritus in the original world, the atavistic hybrid demon, she naturally became Han Dong's slave. Chapter 897. When Han Dong first entered Chengdu and received the initial identity setting from the system, he had a rough idea of the goal of the event. Since the Destiny world deliberately compressed abilities and blocked items, it wanted participants to start from the bottom of Chengdu to explore understand, and thoroughly integrate into the city. As for the final goal, perhaps it required individuals to reach a high enough level in shundu as a slave. Perhaps it required individuals to fully explore the hidden secrets of shundu and the origin of the Blackwater, or even become the biggest power in shundu after speculating about the purpose of the destiny system. Han Dong chose to show his potential to the greatest extent in the Colosseum. While showing leadership, he killed the target directly to gain enough attention. Priest was a factor that Han Dong did not expect. Moreover, Han Dong's black sand was recognized as a special existence among the priests. This was the problem of personal luck value. The world background of Prometheus contained human ancient Egyptian culture. The humans who created Shundu were the early ancient Egyptians who were attracted to this planet. Although their technological development was influenced by extraterrestrial influence, it formed a unique biomechanical technology system. But the deep-rooted culture of the ancient Egyptians was not affected. Han Dong's death magic was recognized as Alubis's magic by the warden. Therefore, the warden accepted this slave with a very good attitude and gave him the best treatment. Join Shindu's organization, Colosseum. The basic storyline has been activated. Identity, intermediate slave, and ordinary employer. Requirements. Completely get rid of the slave identity. When the basic storyline requirements are met, you can exit and settle the destiny event, at least one talent point, as a basic reward. At the same time, in other areas of Shundu, similar to Han Dong's inferior slave incident, happened here, even more cruel and dangerous than the Colosseum. In a biotechnology company's incubation plant, a large number of sacks were regularly arranged on the wall. An engineer wearing a living, breathing device stood in front of the central console. The engineer's arm was like the structure of a flute. The surface was regularly arranged with circular holes. By blowing the arm, the console was activated. Under the control of the musical note, a mechanical arm examined and grabbed the sacks hanging on the wall and sent the mature sacks to the processing room. In one of the sacks was Mia, who was curled up into a ball. Feeling the mechanical arm grabbing her, Mia slowly opened her eyes. Beast market. Other than the slave trade in Fairy's capital, some of the noble slave owners were also interested in rare and strange beasts. Having a unique and rare beast by their side at all times could also show their status. The largest auction in the market was being held. A beastly youth who was in a deep slumber was placed on the stage as the finale item, bound by the beast pen. White fur covered his entire body. Soft beast ears drooped on his head, but his face was that of a handsome and robust youth. There were already several auctioneers who valued this beastly young man who could show off his identity. He could be used as a slave or a pet. At the same time, some performing organizations saw a business opportunity. There were also some buyers from biological companies who immediately reported the matter of a young beast to the higher-ups, pleading for more funds to bring back such a high-quality human beast experimental subject for research. The situation of Mia and Abel was quite bad, but the situation of little brother Demps was completely different from everyone else. Because of Demps's new king characteristic, he regained consciousness 3 hours in advance. The first thing he did was to fight for the right to sell himself as a slave, and sold himself to a female slave owner who had a little power and a lot of wealth. In just a few hours, Demps mixed from a new slave to the level of housekeeper. He was even more favored by the female master than the old housekeeper, who had been at home for decades. At present, a burst of comfortable sound that penetrated the body was constantly coming from the bedroom on the top floor. The huge bedroom was full of ancient Egyptian decorations with a mechanical creature style and a soft, dark bed. The open balcony area was also equipped with an open-air bath. A charming black woman was lying on the edge of the bath, and a handsome young man was providing a unique massage service. Even the lowest level of massage set could give the female master a feeling of heaven. She loved this newly bought young slave so much that she even felt that it was the best decision she had made in more than 10 years. As long as the fingers massaged the joints, the female master would agree to all kinds of requests made by Demps. As the strength of Demps's massage gradually slowed down, the black woman was exhausted as if she had experienced a great battle and immediately fell into a deep sleep. Demps, holding a golden wine glass, looked at the strange beauty of Shundu, a Kamigan. Nicholas, you really know how to choose. This city is too suitable for your development. I won't interfere with your early development for the time being. After I rest for a while, I will come to you again. The perspective cut back. Colosseum. After signing a series of employment contracts, Han Dong bought Meridus's slave contract with the prepaid employment salary, officially gaining a certain amount of freedom and could move freely in Shundu, a Kamigan. You don't have to work today. This money should be enough for you to find a good residence and familiarize yourself with the surrounding environment. Remember, don't take the initiative to cause trouble. About 5% of the population in Shundu die every day. Of course, most of the dead are low-level slaves who have just arrived from the outside. But even if you don't have the identity of a low-level slave, there's still the possibility of death. Han Dong had a good impression of the warden in front of him who took care of him. While thanking him, he also asked one last question. Thank you for reminding me. Finally, I want to ask, when can I take this thing off? Han Dong pointed to the black shackles that bound the wrists, ankles, and neck. The warden didn't answer with words. Instead, he reached out and touched the switch of the bioarmor, chest position. The bioarmor covering the whole body immediately shrank toward the switch on the chest, similar to a starfish, revealing the original appearance of the warden, a somewhat handsome uncle with stubble. However, this uncle was wearing the same shackles as Han Dong. I told you, under Shindu, everyone is a slave. As for the specifics of the slavery system, you can slowly understand it yourself. Perhaps with your Anubis magic, you will be able to reach a deeper level. Thank you. The answer he got was more troublesome than Han Dong expected. Chapter 898. Currency. The currency used in Shundu, a Kamigan, was neither banknotes, gold, silver, or copper coins. It was also not a barter method. In this deformed city, there was a unique and irreproducible currency that was closely related to the life of an individual. In order to obtain such a currency, an individual had to undergo a wallet surgery. Han Dong enjoyed such a surgery for free in the Colosseum. A black tubular container, wallet, was implanted into the right forearm. Due to the large size of the container, half of the wallet was exposed on the surface of the right forearm. The exposed tubular container was also marked with a capacity scale. The wallet was also equipped with a dedicated interface for convenient receipt and payment. Since the wallet was an embedded container, the currency was clear, black water, known as the origin of all things and the root of Shundu, was the only currency in circulation in this deformed city. Of course, just as Han Dong had discovered in the beginning, the black water also had its advantages and disadvantages. This kind of black water, which was widely circulated in Shundu as a unified currency, was of higher quality than what Han Dong saw outside the planet. According to Han Dong's test results, it was of medium to low quality. The black water stored in the container in Han Dong's arm, which was the 2-month employment fee, was exactly 200 milliliters. Black water below this quality could not be recognized by the wallet. Black water above the general grade would not be stored in the wallet. It would be traded in a special way. It was difficult to exchange general black water for high-quality black water. High-quality goods, comparable to diamonds in human society, were only circulated in the higher levels or in the darker corners. The roads were made of evenly arranged large ribs and cement. The street lamps were a kind of spherical luminous body similar to the body sac of a firefly, which continued to provide light for the city. The houses in the city retained the solid architectural style of ancient Egypt to a certain extent. Some solid geometric shapes, such as squares and triangles, were often used in architectural design. At the same time, the alien biological mechanical style was also added. External characteristics that symbolized human tissue were used in the buildings. For example, some column structures were similar to fingers or bones. Some circular vaults were like large intestines. A layer of soft material was added to the surface of the wall, making it irregular and uneven, just like the internal cavity of a living body. There were even many buildings that completely abandoned the inherent Egyptian architectural style and directly built with internal organs as the foundation to create a strange style of organ building. At the same time, the streets were also filled with Malone. All kinds of living vehicles wrapped in skeletal shells and muscle tissues were moving quickly on the road. Some of the vehicles retained the leg structure of living creatures, while others used the wheel structure. However, these vehicles all required the black water as the driving force. The pilots, on the other hand, sat in the body cavity of the vehicle. It was warm and comfortable, and they could even perform some indescribable activities. As for the passers-by walking on the streets, they were all fully armed, or he brought a group of strong slaves with him, or they were equipped with bone-like living weapons on their arms, or directly put on a full set of exoskeleton armor. It seemed that robberies were common in Shun Du Han Dong had never seen the slavery laws in the fairy's capital, but such a severe division of slavery meant that the city was not very peaceful. Thinking of this, Han Dong touched John's spine, embedded in his back. He also had a piece of self-defense equipment, and he also carried Meritus, a slave, with him. He looked no different from other pedestrians in the mountains, and, generally, he would not be targeted. Even if he encountered trouble, he could use the Colosseum. Judging from the huge building corresponding to the Colosseum, such an organization was at least a medium-sized and large organization in the fairy's capital. This is the fairy's capital, a city born from the combination of high-end biotechnology and ancient Egyptian civilization. It's really eye-opening. When Han Dong saw this scene, there was a trace of yearning in his eyes. Compared to the skyscrapers, network communications, and electronic technology in the world of his previous life, Han Dong was more inclined to such a world dominated by biomass. Perhaps it was closely related to Han Dong's own profession. When he stood on the street and saw the city for the first time, Han Dong's body trembled slightly with excitement. He could not help but want to deeply analyze such a beautiful city. It's our first time going to the fairy's capital. It's better to disguise as much as possible. Miss Meritus, can you learn from the other slaves and follow behind me with your head down? You. No, I don't agree. Meritus was a dignified, atavistic body. Nominally, she had become Han Dong's temporary slave. She had done a lot of psychological work for herself, and now she actually had to pretend to be a slave and follow behind him. Seeing this, Han Dong had to turn on another slave mode, companion. Many people on the street also did this, and they were in a state of hugging left and right. On the left was a beautiful and shy girl, and on the right was a muscular man. Han Dong also learned from the other slave owners. His right hand slowly fell on Meritus's waist, and he hugged her to himself. It was a completely different touch. It was different from the touch of Mia, Wino, Miss Jane, and Captain Siaya. It was soft but elastic. Perhaps it was related to the special material of the toad skin. Also, because Meritus was an amphibian, she had a lot of water. When Han Dong hugged her like this, his palm was covered with water. It was wet and slippery and soft. I'll reluctantly allow you to do this. This kind of behavior would not make Meritus feel inferior. At the same time, Han Dong's name was also recorded in Meritus's mating book. Intimate contact was also allowed. If this scene was passed back to the Holy City, the counselors would probably be shocked speechless. In the city, he was a law-abiding knight, but outside the city, he was hugging with an atavistic body soon. Han Dong found a decent-looking hotel. A pot-bellied boss was wearing a neural interface skull helmet and watching a memory movie embedded in the helmet. He felt the approach of the guest. A large muscle shotgun was directly pressed against Han Dong's head, greeting the customer in this way. How long will you stay? As long as you can. When the boss took off the skull helmet, Han Dong also showed a domino that represented the Colosseum. It turned out to be someone from the Colosseum. I'll give you a discount. If it's a long stay, the average is 5 milliliters a day. Before you stay, you need to pay 10 days' worth of room fees in advance. When the boss finished, he stretched out his arm and put it against Han Dong's arm. In the case of subjective consciousness, the wallet was connected and the transaction was completed. Chapter 899. This chapter says it's been blocked, but it'll be unblocked in 2 days. But I can still see it from the background. Someone asked about how Shundu's population is losing 5% every day. Most of them are slaves, and how to replenish the population. Aside from Shundu, there's still a large number of humans living on this planet, such as those who have just started cultivating. These humans who live on the outskirts of Shun do have the lifelong dream of qualifying for Shundu. Once they enter Shindu, they will become slaves and will die due to various extreme events. Moreover, in Shundu, an urban society that focuses on biotechnology strongly encourages fertility and even receives subsidies for Blackwater. I want to elaborate on what the subsidies are for. Benodi's Black Gold Hotel. Han Dong paid the hotel's deposit for 10 days. He received a boneworm key from the hotel owner. The semi-living key can be automatically attached to the surface of the wallet. When used, it will drill out of the palm and interface with the door lock. Opening the door was also subdivided into several steps: biometric identification and lock-type adaptation. After the boneworm is inserted into the keyhole, it will secrete a hormone to stimulate the transformable fleshy keyhole. Only a specific hormone can expand the keyhole to the size of a normal lock, and then match it with the shape of the bone to complete the opening. This security door is much more advanced than the anti-theft door in the original world, of course. Such an advanced biometric lock was not available everywhere. It was related to the hotel Han Dong chose. Not everyone could afford the price of one. 5 milliliters per day. It was considered a medium-sized hotel. When he opened the door, a light fragrance wafted from the guest room. The layout and decoration of the guest room were relatively luxurious. In addition to the bedroom, there was a separate bathroom, a small balcony area, and a slave cubicle. It was Han Dong's first time seeing a slave cubicle. The social nature of Shundu determined that those who could afford to stay in a hotel would definitely bring slaves with them. A slave cubicle was a must. The cubicle area was small and was equipped with upper and lower beds. Using an adjustable one-way glass, the slave owner could observe the situation in the slave cubicle at any time. As for the overall layout of the guest room, in addition to a soft and luxurious bed and dark creature-style tables and chairs, there was also a set of entertainment facilities. It was similar to the television in hotels in the real world. However, there were no electronic products in Shun. The entertainment facility here was called the cranium apparatus. There was a rib frame in the middle of the bed, and a hollow skull helmet was hanging on it. It was the so-called skull apparatus. The back of the skull was connected to dense, fleshy nerve cables that connected to the memory signal central sensor in the hotel, and then to the brain server of a memory company in Luoyang. Once the helmet was worn, the internal synapses could be connected to the wearer's brain on a superficial level. Through the biological sensing method, vision and hearing were connected to the brain server of the memory entertainment company. You can watch all kinds of memory programs for free. You can also choose to connect to the brain of a lower slave, equipped with a receiver, and watch thrilling first-person duels between slaves, death-seeking shows, and some restricted programs that require additional charging. If the recipient wanted to experience more exciting intracranial activities, they would first have to sign a contract to allow the cranial instrument to gain more control over the brain. Once all control is obtained, through the craniometer, he could completely connect his consciousness to the body of a lower slave and personally participate in various brutal and hot-blooded duels. Even if he died midway, it would only be the death of his physical body. Of course, in addition to paying a high connection fee, This kind of consciousness connection also required the purchase of the corresponding slave in advance. It may cost dozens or even hundreds of milliliters of black water at a time. Han Dong held the craniometer and said softly, "If the faceless skull is not sealed, it may be able to connect to the brain server of the memory company in reverse, thus obtaining the information of all the recipients, and even directly controlling the minds of those whose consciousness is connected. No wonder the fate system restricted us." Han Dong did not wear the craniometer out of curiosity. After all, there was the risk of his mind being stolen, and the brain was Han Dong's lifeblood. The scale of Luoyang was quite large, and it was not easy to find companions. Later, let's see if we can use the name of the Colosseum to go to the slave general market to ask for information about Abel and the others. But they should be able to survive. This kind of opening is also a good growth challenge for everyone. Don't worry, let's take a break first. After a series of events and the acceptance of the biotechnology city of Luoyang with the brain, Han Dong was slightly tired. When he walked back to the dormitory to sleep, he found that Lord Meritus was gone. "Miss Mary?" There was no response. After searching the entire dormitory and not finding her, Han Dong realized that something was wrong and pushed open the bathroom door. A different kind of beautiful scenery was in sight. The equally tired Meritus had fallen into a deep sleep in the bathtub filled with water. She was already dehydrated, so the first thing she did when she entered the room was to find the bathroom. The ragged coat that was originally on her body was casually thrown on the ground. Although the scenery was beautiful, Han Dong did not feel anything. Instead, he sighed, "I haven't even had the chance to witness Merides' strength, and I've already been restricted by the system." This level of suppression almost puts all the participants on the same level. Merides' advantage as an atavistic body was also gone. If I fight with other teams in Luoyang, the probability of losing is high. I have to rely on the forces in Luoyang to find ways to improve my status. Dimps should also have some tricks up his sleeve. When he thought of this, Dimps, who was eating and drinking in the mansion, sneezed loudly. "I can't waste any more time. I have to seize every minute." The teams that came to Prometheus are also elites from various countries. Han Dong immediately got up and went to the nearest bookstore to buy a more comprehensive book on slavery. At the same time, he also bought the recent newspapers to improve his understanding of the city, reading by the light of the lamp. As Han Dong gradually sorted out these slavery systems, his brain could no longer support it. Without the support of the faceless head, Han Dong was just an ordinary person with limited energy. He directly fell asleep on the table. God knows how long later. Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep. Han Dong was woken up by a strange phone call. The sound came from the communicator, snail-shaped, placed on the bedside table. He grabbed the snail shell and put the soft part next to his ear. The snail synapse automatically connected to Han Dong's auditory system and connected the phone. "Nicholas, a day of rest should be enough. The gladiator arena needs your help with something. Hurry up and come over." The source of the voice was the warden who gave Han Dong preferential treatment yesterday. Obviously, the warden directly found Han Dong's residence and phone number through the high-level authority of the arena. Chapter 900. I can't believe it can directly find out where I live and the corresponding room's communication number. Maybe I can use this method to find Damps and the others. Just as Han Dong was about to wake up Merides, who was still sleeping in the bathroom, suddenly, he noticed something strange on the table. The draft of slavery that he had spent hours sorting out had undergone some changes. Is this an auxiliary system? The messy handwriting had become very neat and tidy. The slave system in Shandu was fully displayed in the form of text and text. It even filled in the different promotion methods and privileges of slaves for Han Dong. When he reached out to touch the draft paper, a familiar notification sound came. Frowny face Shandu, a Kamigan. The slave system is being loaded into your brain. Slavery was the foundation of Shandu. It was like a text describing the complex social system in detail. It was all loaded into Han Dong's brain. From the bottom rung to the residents of Shandu, To the managers of Shundu and the higher-ups of Shundu, they were all covered by slaves. Everyone is a slave. If I want to completely get rid of my slave status, I need to be above Shundu. Han Dong stood by the window and looked at the center of Shundu, a black pyramid that could be described as super stood in the center. If he wanted to completely get rid of his slave status, he had to go to the black pyramid to find the answer. The slave system may run through the entire world of Prometheus. In a situation where I don't know when I will be able to fully unlock my abilities, I have to make good use of the power of black water and slave equipment in Shindu. This should be the path of life given to us by the fate system. That's right. This city is very suitable for me. The identity test that Dimps mentioned, maybe I could try to become the pharaoh of Shindu. The slightly excited Han Dong dragged Maritisla, who was blowing bubbles in the bathtub, out of the bathtub and started his first day of work in Fairy's capital. A huge domed ancient castle corresponded to the main building of the Colosseum. With the ancient castle as the center, there are dozens of domed buildings of different sizes that corresponded to different enclosed Colosseums. There were all kinds of Colosseums that could satisfy the needs of the audience. As soon as Han Dong stepped into the main building, he ran into the warden who had treated him well yesterday. Although the warden was still wearing the heavy biological armor, he had removed the shackles of his hood, revealing an uncle's face full of stubble. Nicholas, some time ago, due to the loss of control in the creation room, 3 assisting priests died. However, they were the most ordinary priests, and there's still a huge gap between them and you. It's just that we haven't recruited enough people yet. Come with me and help. No problem. Han Dong realized that this Uncle Warden was an honest man. When he asked Han Dong to help with something, he actually revealed in advance that this matter had once led to a death. He could have easily found a reason to say that he didn't have enough manpower and asked Han Dong to help. However, Han Dong also agreed very readily. According to yesterday's learning of the slavery system and the system's prompt, Han Dong's current identity, intermediate slave, was equivalent to an ordinary civilian in Shundu. If he wanted to become a superior slave, he must make enough contributions to legal organizations, companies, or government departments in Shundu. Sir Warden, I'm sorry to ask you to take me there personally. By the way, I still don't know your name. Just call me Basha. Don't worry about it. Your potential is worthy of my attention and training. If the power you have is really related to Anubis, and you can continue to grow, whether it's for me, the guide, or for the entire Colosseum, it's very valuable. Okay, from the warden's preferential treatment and his speech, it could be seen that although the nature of the Colosseum was cruel, its internal management was still very good, especially in the aspect of valuing talents. Taking the elevator powered by the muscle wall press, he quickly came to the manufacturing area. The manufacturing of beasts is extremely important for the entire Colosseum. Since you're temporarily filling in the vacancy, you only need to help a little later. You don't need to participate in the main production process. If you do well, I'll consider keeping you here to work. In addition to the basic commission, you can also get a corresponding manufacturing commission. Okay. Just as Han Dong was about to enter the current manufacturing room, he was suddenly stopped. This is an important area of the organization. Your slave can stay outside. When the warden signaled to let the two separate, Meritus, who is usually very arrogant, actually reached out a hand at this time and tightly grabbed Han Dong's clothes. Although there was still a disdainful expression under the curly hair, her fingers were grasping very tightly. Warden Basha, in fact, I specifically bought her yesterday for a reason. She also has the priest constitution. However, it's only a relatively common magic attribute. Didn't you just say that 3 people died in the laboratory? It shouldn't be a problem if we both go in to help. Han Dong signaled with his eyes. Meritus also immediately condensed a water droplet in her palm. Water attribute is indeed very common. Haha, if I knew she also has the priest constitution, I would definitely not sell it to you at such a low price. Okay, then you two go in to help. As Han Dong took Meritus into the manufacturing experimental area, the warden standing outside the door waved his hand, and immediately a group of eyeball devices floated in front of him. Through the connection of the optic nerves, he could directly observe the specific operation in the experimental area. After some operation, originally, Han Dong was only responsible for delivering some materials and providing a little magic assistance at critical moments. As the manufacturing process progressed, Han Dong was finally promoted to the first assistant of the main manufacturer. Moreover, under the proposal of Han Dong, the final finishing work was completed, creating a beast with high stability and meeting the requirements. Even the warden at the door was stunned. When most of the staff in the laboratory left one after another, Han Dong even had a more in-depth biological discussion with the main manufacturer. Looking at the black water, the biological foundation was still the same. As he spoke, the main manufacturer actually picked up the communication bug that he carried with him and directly contacted the higher-ups of the Colosseum, hoping that Han Dong could join his team. At this moment, Warden Basha used his identity privilege to force his way into the laboratory. He pulled Han Dong from the hands of the main manufacturer. Nicholas is someone I value. This time I asked him to come over because I heard that you're short on manpower, so he came over temporarily to help. If there is nothing else, we will leave first. Without waiting for the main manufacturer to respond, Han Dong was directly grabbed by Warden Basha's shoulder and forcibly dragged out of the laboratory. Warden Basha, didn't you just say that I should stay in a laboratory and work? Cough, cough, cough. I thought about it carefully. This kind of low-level laboratory is not good for your development. I will give you better treatment. Come with me. Okay. Han Dong smiled. His goal had been achieved. Chapter 901. The higher-ups have approved. Nicholas, your status has been promoted to senior slave. As for your slave, he has also been promoted to intermediate slave. Your job in the future is to go to the wormhole to scavenge and pick up some healthy newbies. Han Dong finally obtained the status of senior slave with the permission of the Colosseum. However, the system's restrictions were not relaxed at all, and the abilities restrictions were still maintained in the initial state. At the same time, Han Dong's job also changed accordingly. The scavenger job looked very shabby, but in fact, he could get more salary commission and more free time. He didn't really have to scavenge. Instead, he had to go to the wormhole at the entrance of Shundu and obtain the qualifications to come here. Outsiders would fall into a deep coma in different areas of the wormhole. Han Dong and the others were the same. The healthy newbies would be picked up by different organizations and labeled as low-level slaves. Han Dong would do whatever the company arranged. Anyway, Han Dong was not very interested in the monster creation job that was arranged for him at the beginning. It was nothing more than using the characteristics of the black water to guide the organism to mutate and obtain a more stable monster that could be used as a fighting beast. The black water used for the induction was just general black water, which was not very interesting. Han Dong wanted to get the black water that was evaluated as excellent and high purity through his own detector. Warden Basha, I need your help with something. Can you help me find out where these people are? A white paper with a list of the team members was handed to the warden. Are you sure they are still alive? I'm sure. I'm only 40% sure. If they were ordinary slaves, it would be easy. If they were picked up by some large biological company and used as experimental subjects, the company would completely block the news and it would be difficult to find them. Well, thank you, Mr. Basha. You should be friends and win a Shandu together, right? Since I'm helping you find them, what can you do for me? Han Dong expected this in advance. After all, the warden took care of him because of his potential, so Han Dong had to do something in return. I will sign up for this month's promotion competition and strive to become a white slave. The so-called promotion competition was a special test in the slave system of the Divine Capital. Any company or organization could only promote individuals to the status of superior slave at most. If they wanted to promote their status, they had to participate in the promotion competition held in the Black Pyramid. A competition recognized by the current pharaoh was held once a month. As long as they could pass the competition, they would be promoted to a higher class of slaves. They might even have some real power in the god's capital. Moreover, Han Dong guessed that this kind of leveling up might be able to remove some of the restrictions on his abilities. The warden's eyes lit up when he heard Han Dong's words. It seems that you have a detailed understanding of the slavery rules in the divine capital. You even know about the monthly ranking competition. Actually, you don't have to be anxious. Although the promotion of your status will also allow me, the guide, to be rewarded by the company. But you've just arrived, and you're going to participate in the ranking competition so soon. There's a high chance that you'll die. More than 10 days is more than enough time. It's not as simple as you think. I happen to have some work to do recently. Come find me when you're done. If you can't meet the requirements that I've set, you're not allowed to participate in the ranking competition. This was the answer that Han Dong wanted to get. It would be great if the warden could provide him with a sparring partner and a strength assessment. Okay, go back to work. The wormhole was a type of wall cavity. There were 72 of them. They were all located at the edge of the divine capital. As for the walls of the divine capital, they were not the usual stone walls. Instead, they were made of living flesh. The height of the walls could not be seen with the naked eye. They extended all the way to the clouds in the sky. It was as if the divine capital, a kamigan, was built in a sealed living body. Could it be that the divine capital is built in the body of the sandworm that swallowed us? Or the sandworm is the divine capital, a living city? When Han Dong thought of this, his heart was filled with shock. It was reasonable for a civilization that developed purely with life technology to build a living city. In other words, the divine capital was always in a moving state, moving inside this alien planet. Whenever a qualified person arrived, they did not need to enter the city. Instead, the divine capital would directly devour the new slaves. Han Dong showed his Colosseums, scavenger pass, and entered the number 19 wormhole. There were many black tunnels neatly arranged in the wormhole. Every once in a while, a new person covered in body fluid would slip out of the tunnel and fall unconscious. There were hundreds of bodies piled up on the ground. Most of them were missing limbs or already dead. Han Dong would receive 5 milliliters of salary every time he picked up a new person with a complete body. Just as Han Dong was about to start his first day of work, he noticed that there was a group of workers in the wormhole who were responsible for cleaning up the trash. Each of them had a strong body and wore an organ-shaped hood. They cleaned up the dead or the disabled new people who had not been taken away by the organization for more than 3 days. They carried 10 bodies each time to the wormhole's garbage dump and threw them deep underground. Han Dong's intuition told him that this might be related to a secret in the divine capital. He quickly found a worker wearing a hard hood and asked in a low voice, "Excuse me, where will these useless bodies be sent to?" However, he did not get an answer. The movers did not turn their heads or stop. They continued with their work. "You knew, right? Why are you talking to these dead bodies? Since these pieces of trash with missing limbs are useless to the development of the divine capital, they can only be fed to the poor creator." At this time, a tall, thin man with 6 arms who was also here to pick up trash explained. "White giant." Han Dong immediately connected the dots with the movie plot. It's better to know less. This person had finished his work for the day. He carried 6 complete bodies and left the wormhole with a strange laugh. This person would never have imagined that because he had finished his work early today, his answer on the spur of the moment had become the fuse for the change in the divine capital. Sure enough, the ancient Egyptians who were brought to this planet have already completely devoured the white giant. The garbage dump at the bottom of the wormhole may correspond to the hidden secret of the divine capital. Maybe the white giant is imprisoned below, or maybe there's a more cruel scene. To be safe, I'll wait until my ability is basically unsealed before going down to investigate. I can already smell the scent of a derivative plot, just as Han Dong pretended to pick up trash and try to get close to the garbage dump at the bottom of the wormhole. Buzz, the black vortex on his torso, actually produced a slight resonance. Could it be that there's a rampager marked by the black tower down there? This feeling made Han Dong even more determined to go down and take a look. Chapter 902. This trip to the wormhole could be said to be fruitful. Not only did he fully understand the nature of Shendu, but he also vaguely found a secret area related to the core of Shendu. He also triggered the Black Vortex. Han Dong was not completely sure what the Black Vortex meant. If there was a rampager hidden below, he would have to wait until his strength was fully recovered to deal with it. Simply comparing Pennywise's strength, it was clear how strong a rampager was. At the very least, it was extremely difficult to kill, let alone capture it alive. If he could really capture a rampager alive, Han Dong would receive a 100% reward from the Black Tower world, which would affect Han Dong's overall development in the Destiny realm. It was extraordinary. Because it was the first time he came to the wormhole to pick up trash, Han Dong also suffered a lot. It took more than 7 hours to find 5 intact corpses with great difficulty, which could be considered as completing the basic work for today. In just half a day, Warden Basha had already obtained the information Han Dong wanted. Of the 3 people you're looking for, I only got the information of 2 through various channels. Abel Lane was picked up by the Blackwater auction, and then, as a special human-beast breed, he was bought by a slave owner with a higher status than me. Due to the auction's confidentiality mechanism for the buyer, I don't know who he went to. Mia Simonovich was picked up by the largest life company in Shendu, Lane Biology, so there should be no information about her. Unfortunately, about 10 hours ago, your friend actually broke out of her body and escaped during the birth process. She is currently being hunted down by Lane Biology. But don't worry, a slave who can escape from Lane Biology shows that she is extremely talented. If other companies meet her, they will definitely take the initiative to hide her and train her secretly. As long as she passes the promotion competition and becomes a white slave, Lane Biology will automatically lose control of her slave. As for Demps Martin, I did not find any information here. Thank you, Mr. Basha. After receiving this information, at least it meant that everyone had arrived at Shendu safely. The person Han Dong was least worried about was Demps. He didn't believe that anything would happen to this guy. The reason why he could not find any information was that Dempis might have long erased all information related to him. Mia's situation was a little worse, but it was also a kind of training. That way, Han Dong didn't have to worry about his teammates. He was ready to focus all his attention on the promotion competition that would be held in 10 days. The promotion competition is the only way to improve the status of an individual after reaching the advanced slave level. If he wanted to get rid of his slave status and occupy a certain position in the God's capital, he had to participate. If he missed the competition in 10 days, he would have to wait until next month. No participant of Fate would be able to wait that long. It was the same for Abel and the others. They must have already found out about the competition. There was no need to actively look for them. They would naturally meet in the promotion competition. The only thing I need to do now is to maximize my strength and slave equipment with my current body. Before Han Dong could take the initiative to look for Warden Basha, Basha had already pointed to a small, empty coliseum. He was ready to personally test Han Dong. He pointed to Han Dong and Meritus, who was beside him. Since you both have the shaman potential, then come at me together. Under normal circumstances, the promotion competition allows different slaves to team up and cooperate. Okay, Han Dong also wanted to bring Meritus along. He wanted to see how this atavistic physique could perform under the situation where her abilities were suppressed. Before the competition, the warden even took off the skeletal armor on his body and gestured to Han Dong and the warden. Let's go. Okay. It was also at this moment, after a whole day and night of adapting, especially after soaking in the bathtub for an entire night, Meritus had completely adapted to this weak body. She slowly recalled the feeling when she was still a pagan. Jumping power, Meritus jumped up and easily jumped 10 meters high. Her speed was extremely fast. Her throat swelled, and she spat out a water ball from her body. It looked like a very ordinary water ball, but it was completely different from ordinary water magic. The warden also noticed a trace of abnormality and frowned slightly. At the same time, Han Dong attacked from the front. The slave equipment, John's skeleton, was fully activated, and the softened bones immediately wrapped around Han Dong's hands and feet. He completely abandoned the defense of the torso and used it to increase the agility of the limbs. Just as the warden was considering whether to deal with Meritus above him or deal with Han Dong, who was attacking from the front, the situation suddenly changed. Han Dong made an incredible move. His left arm released a series of black sand, but the target was not the warden, but the water ball released by Meritus. When the black sand and the water ball touched, there was a magic fusion. The strange water ball was completely dyed black. Then it turned into an unusually sticky black net that completely covered the warden. Meritus' saliva was highly corrosive in the first place, and when combined with Han Dong's death magic, the destructive power of her saliva had undergone a qualitative change, resulting in a kind of deadly corrosion that could trigger rapid gangrene. Sizzle, black smoke rose. A mass of necrotic tissue fluid flowed along the warden's body to the ground. However, Han Dong didn't think it would be so easy to deal with a middle-level figure in Shun. He immediately controlled John's spine with his consciousness and changed the strengthening of the limbs to focus on the strengthening of the right arm. As a result, such a single strengthening was beyond Han Dong's expectations. Well, can it still be like this? When it was acting on the right arm alone, what grew out of the spine was actually a dark gray bone, which was much harder and tougher than normal bones. And, not only attached to the surface, some gray bone directly penetrated the flesh of the right arm and became part of Han Dong's arm. Not to mention, this kind of gray bone that penetrated the flesh was quite compatible with the pale zombie arm. Even the structure of the hand claw had changed. It was sharper and more stable. But, just as Han Dong stared at the warden and was ready to give his claw, suddenly there was a strange feeling that invaded Han Dong's mind. Although he didn't observe anything, Han Dong's intuition told him that this claw couldn't pierce in. He changed his combat strategy and jumped up instead. He grabbed Meritus, who was ready to launch an attack from the air, and landed steadily about 10 meters away from the warden. Han Dong broke out in a cold sweat when he turned around to look. A strange black arm grew out of the warden's corroded head, and a giant sickle was connected to the arm. The ground in front of him had been cut open with a deep mark several meters long. Very good. That's what I want to test. You will encounter similar situations in the promotion competition. Being able to foresee the danger and decisively abandon the original plan is the best choice. The sickle arm retracted into the skull. The warden uncle used a more elegant movement and gently pushed the hair in front of him with his little finger. With the completion of this movement, the corrosion injuries suffered by his body were all healed. He looked like a normal human, but he was actually one of the most terrifying monsters in the Colosseum. Chapter 903. Han Dong would never play around with his life. At the same time, he believed in his intuition and decided to dodge. Sure enough, the scariest thing in the Colosseum was not the beast that participated in the death match, but the manager. The warden's hand knife to the skull and ultra-rapid regeneration basically confirmed one thing. The black water that caused the warden to mutate was definitely of medium or even high quality. Of course, it was extremely difficult to control the high-quality black water, which also meant that the warden himself was also quite powerful. If Han Dong had tried to escape the restrictions of the Colosseum and become the warden's enemy when he first came to Shindu, it would have been pointless. Due to his excellent performance, Han Dong was allowed to participate in the promotion competition. However, the warden was also quite shocked. He did not expect that the two of them could achieve perfect cooperation, attacking from the air and land at the same time, and using a type of mixed magic. Magic fusion. How did you do it? Han Dong scratched his head and pretended to be a newbie. Haha, I only found it yesterday by chance. Today I tried on Mr. Basha, but I didn't expect it to work so well. However, the reason why the magic fusion could happen was closely related to Han Dong's brain. His ability was greatly suppressed, but it was not completely sealed. The source of magic came from the talent tree in his brain. Han Dong, who could complete imitation of all things, could also make his magic have toad attributes. Seizing this opportunity, Han Dong hurriedly asked about the black water. Mr. Basha, the black water in your body should be much better than the circulating black water, right? Yes, after you pass the promotion competition, you may also receive a direct gift from the pharaoh. The probability is very high. As long as you can survive, the Anubis magic that you have will definitely be valued by the pharaoh. For the rest of the time, take your slave to the trading area in Shundu and buy suitable slave equipment. The promotion competition usually allows an individual to bring 2 pieces of equipment into the competition, so the basic preparation is essential. The living equipment sold in the trading point might be able to help you turn the tide in times of crisis. As he spoke, the warden stretched out his arm and revealed the interface of his advanced wallet. You can't buy anything good with your commission. You don't even have the qualification to go to the trading area. I'll lend you some first. You can return it to me after you finish the promotion competition. There's no need to be polite. If you succeed in your promotion, I'll also be rewarded as a guide by the company. Han Dong kept this friendship in his heart. When the wallet on his arm was connected, he directly received a transfer of 5,000 milliliters. When it was more than 1,000 milliliters, the black water currency would be stored through the compression method of the wallet. Thank you very much. One had to know that Han Dong's employment fee was only 100 milliliters a month. Even if he worked hard to pick up rubbish in the wormhole, it would take him more than a year to earn 5,000 milliliters. Before leaving, the warden reminded him, the trading area seems to be regulated, but it's not completely safe. There are some forces inside that you can't deal with. Don't take the initiative to cause trouble, and don't reveal your wallet. If you run into trouble, show your Colosseum identity. Okay, in the battle just now, after using John's spine for the first time, Han Dong had a strong interest in this kind of semi-living biological equipment. He immediately pulled Meritus and rushed to the trading area marked on the map. Shundu, a Kamigan, was a city with a serious level distinction, and it required strength mutation to prove its value, so the trading area was indispensable and important. All kinds of equipment, modification technology, parasitic tools, and high-quality black water were used to enhance individual strength. Of course, some strange non-combat tools and slaves that fit the tastes of various buyers could also be directly bought or even customized. Trading area, east entrance. In order to minimize the signs of strolling without buying anything and robberies, a series of simple checks will be carried out on the entrance before entering. At the entrance of the pitch-black entrance stood a gatekeeper of the trade fair. He was at least 4 meters tall, and his huge physique gave off an enormous amount of pressure. More importantly, there were several black face-huggers connected by fleshy tentacles on his back. Anyone who dared to enter the trading area would be immediately killed by this person. Please show your wallet, identity card, and slave certificate. With Han Dong's information, the gatekeeper slowly stepped aside to make a path. Well, the black water content is above 1,000 milliliters. Colosseum, staff, slave certificate is legal. You are allowed to enter the auction venue. Thank you. When passing by this person, the instinctive sense of danger made Han Dong sweat. Meritus also gently tugged at the corner of Han Dong's clothes. She almost squealed out loud. As the two passed through the long black passage, the bustling trading area appeared in the form of a street in front of them. Because there was a basic financial audit, people who could come to the trading area at least had a certain amount of money or power. Most people wore masks, followed by a slave exuding a murderous aura or a fierce beast. In order to facilitate buyers to find what they want in a short time, the trading area was also equipped with a shared guide. A group of slaves who were very familiar with the trading area were chained at the entrance. You only needed to pay 5 milliliters to enjoy their guide service. When Han Dong stepped in, these slaves looked at him with begging eyes and stretched out their arms, hoping to connect with the wallet on Han Dong's arm. It's the first time here. It's better to bring a guide. Han Dong found a one-armed girl who looked more honest. Thank you, sir. I will try my best to serve you. What do you want to buy? I will participate in a more dangerous competition in a while, and I urgently need to improve myself. Do you have any suggestions? Then I suggest you go to South Street, which has mainly sold living equipment. Some shops provide free transformation surgeries so that your body can fully adapt to the living equipment they sell. If you need, you can also buy some parasites to help you manage black water in the front of West Street. Take me to see the living equipment first. Try to take us to some more special shops. If you can buy some living equipment that I personally feel is good, I'll give you some black water as a tip. Okay, I know a shop that is very special, but you need to do an advance inspection before you can enter. Is it to check my wallet or my identity? Neither. The owner will check your body in detail. Only customers whose bodies meet their equipment will be allowed to enter the shop. Oh, there is such a shop. Take me to see it. Chapter 904. Chengdu, Trading Area, South Street, the main sales area of slave equipment. Due to the nature of Chengdu itself, slave equipment was also mainly living equipment. Different forms, characteristics, bones, and meat became the main materials of equipment. Han Dong saw the most living firearms. The living firearms here were divided into two major categories, external and embedded. External firearms were naturally handheld, independent firearms. The surface was wrapped by a hard exoskeleton, and the interior was composed of high-density muscle tissue. These high-density, compressed muscles had strong power and were used to push the corresponding model of biological bone bullets. The embedded firearms were more special. Once purchased, the store owner would provide embedding surgery to perfectly embed the entire firearm with the individual arm. After embedding, the firearm could be controlled through the brain nerves. Individuals with priest characteristics could also enhance energy emission through the embedded firearms. In addition to the basic firearms, Han Dong also saw some cold weapons. A spear made of the entire super long spine. Some kind of knife insect that could climb on the individual arm by itself. There's also a bone bow that could be perfectly integrated with the back arm. With the strength provided by the bowstring and the strength of the arrow, it could shoot arrows with more power than firearms. However, Han Dong was not born in the crusade and had no experience in the use of weapons. As for the whole set of exoskeleton living armor, it seemed to be a high-value thing. It was not displayed outside, but stored in the depths of the store. You need to express your intention to buy it to the boss and show the black water you carry. While walking on the road, there were even many people who asked Han Dong if he was willing to sell the John spine embedded behind it. Obviously, such living exoskeleton armor was quite rare. When Han Dong refused and deliberately showed the sign of the Colosseum, these people's faces immediately changed and quickly left. Although the equipment stores seen along the way were quite novel, the equipment sold in different stores were different in characteristics. Some had high damage and explosive power. Some had high durability and self-growth ability. However, Han Dong did not stop at all. Since the little girl guide said in advance that there was a special store, he would go and see it first. This is the store. I will wait for you outside the door. Heise's Nerves was a rather strange shop name. Different from other biotechnology-themed shops, this shop used rather conventional sand bricks. The whole shop was dark gray in color, giving people a very depressing feeling. Moreover, there were no items or equipment on display at the entrance of the shop. It was entirely up to the player to buy or leave. Just as Han Dong was about to drag Meritus into the shop, they were immediately stopped by a strange old man. The old man did not wear any biological armor. His arms were segmented in front of the two of them. The segmented arms were connected by nerve threads. He tilted his head to take a look. Not only the arm, but the whole body of the old man was in a segmented state. The neck and head were also connected by dense nerve threads. It was difficult to explain such a form with conventional biological knowledge. Let me check your bodies. Unqualified people are not qualified to use the equipment I made. All right. Han Dong was still very polite. He stood up straight and allowed the old man to inspect him. The old man knocked the bone embedded in Han Dong's back with his crutch and showed a rather surprised look. Huh, your spine is good. Where did you buy it? This is the spine I pulled out from a monster after I won a special game in the Colosseum. It should belong to the stable core of that monster, and it matches my body. No wonder. At this moment, snap! The old man directly inserted 5 fingers into Han Dong's body, and black nerves grew from the fingertips to check the inside. Your body is different from the garbage here. Good. I'm happy to sell you something. Later, when the old man checked Meritus, he received unexpected nerve-sensing data. You are not people from his planet, right? I have never seen a nerve distribution like yours. It seems to have nothing to do with the black water, but you developed it on your own. Interesting. Come with me. The old man didn't delve deeper and led the two into the dark and depressing depths of the shop. At the same time, the old man's back area split, and nerves were derived from his back to construct an identical clone. The clone guarded the door of the shop and checked the customers who wanted to enter the shop. There were similar clones of nerves inside the shop that managed the shop alone. What kind of equipment do you want? You already have a piece of good quality exoskeleton armor, so you don't need to change it. You can mainly consider weapons or embedded items that can improve your utilization of black water and perception. If you don't have any suggestions, you can show me your ability. It will be more convenient for me to recommend suitable equipment for you. No problem. Han Dong could see that this old man was very capable. He opened his left arm, and wisps of black sand of death floated out. This is Anubis death magic. For a moment, all the old men in the shop turned their heads and stared at Han Dong with surprise. The clone at the door closed the door directly, as if to provide a personal service for Han Dong. When the door closed, all the old men gathered together. The nerves in their bodies were connected to each other, and their spines were reconnected, forming a body with nerve threads floating in the pores of the body. Priest of Anubis, you are still young. If you continue to grow, you might be able to pass the journey of the 9 gates. The journey of the 9 gates? The old man didn't answer. Instead, he guessed the purpose of Han Dong's purchase. I think you should be preparing to participate in this month's promotion competition, right? Since you're a priest of Anubis, I have something for you. The old man took out a metal box that exuded the aura of death. This is my masterpiece 2 years ago. I haven't been able to find a suitable buyer, because no one can control such a thick aura of death. Wearing such equipment will speed up the death of their body, and the consumption of black water will greatly increase. When the box was opened, a jackal head ring appeared in front of Han Dong. The surface was overflowing with a metallic luster. This is bone? You have a good eye. This is a bone crystal that consumed the flesh of 1,000 special dead and was made with a special process. There's also a death beetle from the pyramid embedded in it. You should be able to control it. Han Dong didn't wear it at all and directly asked, "How much is it?" The cost is about 6,000 milliliters. If you can completely control and use the power of death, I can give you a 50% discount. Chapter 905. The reason why Han Dong directly asked for the price. Not only because he saw through the material of the ring, but also because of the shop owner's true feelings. More importantly, at the moment when the metal box was opened, his left arm trembled slightly. It produced an extremely rare resonance phenomenon. Han Dong had to get the item that could be recognized by the undead Sacrifice Imhotep. Although the price was expensive, as long as there was a 50% discount, it was still within the acceptable range. Well, I'll try. This ring, which inherited the bone refining technology of ancient Egypt, was made from 1,000 special dead and death beetles. When Han Dong wore it on his mummified finger, it immediately caused a strong resonance. For a moment, Han Dong's image was somewhat similar to the Grim Reaper, Alex, but in essence, they were completely different. About an hour passed. Blackpool's nerve reopened for business. I'm really looking forward to your performance in the promotion competition. With your characteristics and my creation, you will definitely surpass the level of the competition and become the most dazzling slave. If you are lucky, you may be chosen by the pharaoh. But it's better to be careful. Thank you, Boss Blackpool. It was an unexpected gain. Han Dong was also in a good mood and gave the little girl 5 times the guide fee. In addition, Meritus also bought a neural embedded device, connecting neckworm in this shop. A kind of neural worm similar to the effect of a chip. When attached to the back of the neck, it would automatically drill into the skin and connect with the cervical nerves. It would also leave a pinky-sized lump in the neck area. This kind of connecting neckworm could strengthen the nerve sensing between the brain and the body, making the reaction speed faster and the movement more agile. The last bit of money left was also used to buy a pre-special spell-casting gauntlet for Meritus in another shop. Just like that, Han Dong only took a trip to the trading area and spent all the money. When a warden learned of this matter, he wondered if Han Dong was cheated. However, when he learned the name of the shop Han Dong went to and the equipment he bought, he immediately decided that the 5,000 milliliters of black water was worth it. Before the start of the competition, as long as there was free time, Han Dong would have an unequal competition with the warden to improve his strength as much as possible and familiarize himself with the newly acquired slave equipment. Han Dong had never thought that he would be invincible just because he had obtained some equipment. The participants who came to the world of Prometheus were all elites, and there were definitely people who were doing better than him. For example, Demps, who was accompanied by the dark-skinned woman, was participating in the auction. The female master also said that if Demps saw something that caught his eye, he could make a bid. He didn't have to worry about the price. As long as he could survive the ranking competition, it was better than anything else. Han Dong was valued the moment he arrived at the fairy's capital because he carried the Egyptian attribute with him. They seemed to have the upper hand. However, compared to the other teams, they didn't have much of an advantage. It could even be said that they didn't have much of an advantage. The 2 teams from Wangdu Megalanri were basically grade 4. Among them, Professor Novikov was grade 5. It was very difficult to obtain 2 fate points in one go in True Fate, except for Han Dong. This group of people had experienced True Fate events at least 4 times and were quite experienced. They didn't come to the world of Prometheus completely randomly. Instead, they used the rights they had won in the past to obtain some information about the world in advance. Therefore, they had made sufficient preparations beforehand. The particle radiation team had completed the gathering of all members within a day. Fairy's capital, Newt Shrine, Body Modification Institute. It was one of the 9 buildings near the pyramid. It was the largest body modification and embedded equipment manufacturing company in the fairy's capital. Tesla was undergoing a high-risk body modification experiment here. At the same time, he also needed to perfectly integrate a bioelectric equipment into his body. When the experiment was completed, an assistant doctor made a mistake and was burned to death on the spot by a strong electric current. Although the operation was quite successful. However, Tesla's body condition was not good at all after the high-risk operation. Before the start of the promotion competition, they would spend the time in the resting room. Miss Eva, who was used as a mobile power source, would also accompany Tesla throughout the whole process. Tesla, don't you think you're going too far? The weak Tesla slowly raised his arm that was full of sutures. There was even a living suture wriggling in his palm. However, with a snap of Tesla's fingers, the strong electric current directly tore apart a metal decoration in the room. My ability has been greatly suppressed. I've returned to the early stage of a novice knight. This will cause the gap between us and the group of low-grade fallen knights to become almost non-existent. Of course, the gap between us and the atavistic body will also be very small. You've seen that kid's ability. If we don't take the risk, we may lose the next time we meet them. Prometheus is a world with creatures as the background. This operation has allowed me to fully master the ability of bioelectricity. As long as I can successfully promote, I'll definitely be able to contact the higher-ups in God's capital with electric current, a special substance that doesn't exist in God's capital's technology. This way, I'll be one step closer to becoming a legend in the current world. By the way, how's Walter Griff's modification operation? It's still in progress. It's been 31 hours. I heard that 6 doctors and modification engineers have been seriously injured during the operation. One of them has died. However, Walter's condition is still stable. That's normal. Walter's arms are called the Devil's Hands by Mr. Nobel. The existence of these hands is against the rules. As long as the operation is completed successfully, the probability of our team winning the final competition will greatly increase. Okay, Sun Temple, in God's capital, the second largest building after the Black Pyramid, was also the largest energy company in God's capital. It supported about 80% of God's capital's life energy supply. The company even created a perfect biological sun so that God's capital, which was located in the body of the city, also had a normal day and night cycle. Inside the Sun Temple, there was a tablet room that required a certain status to visit. A young monk with a scar on his head had sat inside for 3 days and 3 nights without eating or drinking. What a deep-rooted divine culture. Even if it was brought to an alien planet, its divine culture hasn't changed at all. Just as the monk got up, waves of strange energy in the tablet room flowed through the cracks of the words on the ground into the monk's body. A thin layer of sunlight covered the monk's body. He was different from the other participants who took the technological route. This monk seemed to have obtained a little divine power through a special way of enlightenment. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.